Good morning, and thank you for being patient. This is our first regular meeting of January 2017. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the invocation by Reverend Charles Teagard from the Church of the Trinity Metropolitan Community Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, Reverend.
Let's pray. Holy, most loving God, we come before you in this new year. Holy One, seeking your guidance. We pray for our great county, for our commissioners, for all public servants in Manatee County. We honor them today, their service and their leadership for the public good. So be with us. Help us in all of the moments of our lives to be awake and aware, God, of how you are ever present. We ask all of these things in your many holy names, saying together, Amen. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have one item that's scheduled for time certain at 10 a.m. That's item number 30, the tax exemption. So I'll go ahead and ask, are there any changes to the agenda?
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have several suggested changes. First, changes to the consent agenda. Under the administrator, item number 9, assignment of 4420 Partners LLC impact fee credit authorization, CA-08-02 T and R and Casa de Dios, Brandon, Inc. Impact fee credit authorization. The requested action is updated to include authorization for the chairman to execute final authorization for the transportation credit impact fees. And number 10, assignment of Pulte Homes impact fee credit authorization CA-15-02 to HC Properties, Roman numeral 2, LLC impact fee credit. The requested action was updated to include authorization for the chairman to execute amended final authorization of transportation credit. Property management, item number 17, Florida Power and Light, easement for 44th Avenue East Road Improvement Project at the 37th Street intersection. That item is being requested to be deferred. And under public safety, item number 25, EMS County grant funds. The grant application was added to this agenda item. Those are the suggested changes.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll go ahead and move forward with our agenda. The first item is awards, presentations, and proclamations. We have our first Employee of the Month for 2017, Jeff Connor. So, folks would like to come forward. And Mr. Connor's family as well.
Little baby.
Yeah, got a couple babies in there. We always like when we have babies.
Oh. See, I'm
Even though she may not like it, you like it.
Good morning. My name is Ron Hardy. I'm the telecommunications manager here within the IT department. Jeff has worked for me since I've basically arrived here at the county over 10 years ago. So I think we've all heard the phrase that something couldn't happen to a better person. And I believe this is a perfect description for the recognition of Jeff as the Manatee County Employee of the Month. I've worked closely with Jeff since I came to the county over 10 years ago. And from the very beginning, it was obvious that not only did he possess the technical skills required, but he also understood the people side of the business. He's an excellent model of the County East principles, as well as a great ambassador for the IT department. He's professional and courteous in every aspect of his daily business here at the county, in both personal and professional communications. I look forward to working with Jeff for the years to come, and so congratulations, Jeff. You deserve it. And, with Jeff is his wife, Maura, his daughter, Avery, and the new one, Veda, who has been very good through this whole thing.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Short and sweet. I just thank everyone involved with this recognition, and I appreciate it.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. All right, next up, we have another award for that division that gets lots of awards, our Transit Division, Florida Public Transit Association Awards. Comes Ron and the team.
I'm going to buy time for Bill to get up front.
Okay?
He got in the back there. The Chad Butso, Public Works. We come to get, before you today one more time, and I'm really going to let Bill do the talking because he was all ready to do this. But we've realized one more award for our operators, and unfortunately, the working man around here doesn't get as much credit as what they do. That's really why we wanted to bring this award that happened to be handed out a month or so ago. Deserves that recognition.
Good morning, everyone. This is really very special when you think about it. We want to turn this over and make it about Stacy today, but having said that, in the last 2 years, between transit and fleet, there have been 9 awards that have been garnered. And that's very special. It's recognition, I think, of this group, County Commission, County Administration, all the departments, but also the line employees. So we've got a great team. This is something that's very rare. Today we want to recognize Stacy, and I'm not the only one that's going to speak. Stacy was here maybe 3 months ago, received a Heroism Award, and that was very special. She's someone that treats co-workers, citizens with respect. She has a very favorable attitude. She's all about team. Remember last year we talked about David Simpson. He's a leader. He's not in a position of leadership, but he's a leader. And that's what we see with Stacy, our supervision, and other operators. Remember also that this is 2 years in a row that we've had Transit Operator of the Year. And Jim Egbert and I have been in transit a long time. I don't think this has ever happened. I don't think one organization has received this many awards in 2 consecutive years. So again, this is not just about public works and transit. I think this is an ensemble that's very special, and we should recognize that. With that, I want Jim Egbert and our superintendents just to say a few words. Stacy has her family here. We want her to say a few words, and then we want her family to see her before you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jim Egbert. I'm the operations chief of MCAT. As Bill was saying, as an agency overall, all of our teamwork that goes into what we do every day with the moving of the people around Manatee County, it is an honor to be with an organization that in 2 years, 3 operators have received the state award for Operator of the Year. But with Stacy, it's special because Stacy is the type of person that goes out every day and she doesn't think of her passengers as customers. She thinks of them as friends. These are people that she goes out every day. It's as if she's driving her own car, picking up her buddies to take them where they need to go. And that's how she treats all of her passengers on a daily basis. With my team here, Kevin and Benita, my superintendents, and the way we oversee the operators, Stacy's model is what we want with all of them. So with that, yeah.
I'm Kevin. I'm one of Stacy's superintendents, and she's a model employee, as you probably already heard, but we're also proud of her. I want to make all of our supervisors and everybody's really, really appreciative of her. She's one of the nicest people you could ever know, truly. Thank you for honoring her. I appreciate it very much.
And ditto to that effect. She's basically a great employee. She has good customer service. She'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. And we're just very proud of Stacy.
Stacy's going to say a few words. I just wanted to tell you that when we had the awards banquet, Stacy didn't know that she'd won the award. there was a display board, and you've probably seen the same display board right outside the elevators. And I think I was looking the wrong direction. I didn't even see it, but Stacy did. So she was kind of nervous, but she made one of the best speeches I've ever heard. And the assembled group had standing ovation twice. More people came up to congratulate her and our team than I've ever seen. So she said some things that were very meaningful. So I want her just to take a minute and share some of those meaningful comments with you. Again, leaders are at all levels of the organization, and we want to recognize Stacy for what she does. And in so doing, she's a leader in our community. You may not know this, but she moved here to support her mom and dad. She's raising 3 beautiful children. We had the opportunity at the banquet to bring her children there, and that was as much fun as I've had in I don't know how long. So it was really special. We got some really good pictures, and we had a lot of fun. So Stacy, go ahead.
Good morning. It's certainly an honor and a privilege to be here, to stand here before you again as Driver of the Year for 2016. It's still overwhelming, very humbling to have this opportunity to represent not only Manatee County, but also now to be a transportation representative for the entire state of Florida. That's not something I take lightly. I really couldn't have done any of it without the support of my family, my parents, my children, my coworkers, my bosses, Kevin, Jim, Bill, everybody that's here with me today, and my employees. My passengers are like family to me. I think one of the things that I talked about at the awards ceremony was the fact that with all the negativity going on today in the world, it only takes a minute to be kind. It only takes a minute to lend a helping hand. I mean, and even if you're not a talkative person, just a smile or a wave and a hello, it can really brighten somebody's day. It can change somebody for the good forever. You don't know what people are going through. And I'd like to place emphasis on just a simple act of kindness. If there's anything that we can all do in 2017 is just take that extra minute to be kind, be helpful, because you never know how that's going to impact somebody in their day. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be standing here in front of you, and thank you so much for this award.
Thank you.
Anybody in your family?
Commissioner,
We want to get a good photo.
Commissioner Ball wanted to. Excuse me, Commissioner Ball, we have a couple commissioners who want to say a couple things. Stacy, if you'd like to just listen for a sec.
Stacy, it seems like just yesterday you were before us because of what you did with the accident. And, here you are again. And it just goes to show you, you're the real deal. And I think I actually said that before when you were here. But I just wanted to say, that we are all just so proud of you and thank you for all that you do. And we're truly glad, beyond words, that you're with Manatee County.
Thank you
So
very
thank
much.
you.
And Commissioner Whitmore.
And I appreciate your comments because you are so right. Just that smile, just to be respectful to your clients. They don't have a choice but to take transit most of the time. And our ridership, I think, is almost 2 million now. So you're doing 2,000 trips for people that really need you. And, I know a kid that takes 3 buses just to get to MTI by 7:45 in the morning from Anna Maria Island. So, these people desperately need you, and I'm glad that you were recognized because we need more people like you, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you again for what you do in being patient. I can imagine in your job the patience you must need to be able to do that, but to be able to do it day after day with a smile on your face and making people feel welcome, because that is so important in this community for everyone, the people that have to ride the bus to the people that come here and spend $2,000 on a football game ticket. So we have it all, but thank you so much for what you do on a daily basis. You're really a great example of a Manatee County employee. Thank you.
I know what's really amazing is that the change that I've actually seen in my bus passengers, in my customers. When I first took over the route, things were like quiet, But it's interesting to see the more positiveness that you display, it's catchy, So like after the first 6 months, now you've got passengers that are saying kind words to other passengers or helping other passengers. And that's the neatest thing ever, because like the whole demeanor of the bus just got uplifted and changed. It was really neat.
Thank you for reminding us all of that. That's something that we need to work on every day. So thank you so much for being here, and your family too. It's good to see you, and you must be very proud of your mom. Daughter.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Up next, wonderful time of the year. I can always tell when it gets cold, it must be time for the
Red
fair.
jackets. Yeah.
We don't have a proclamation, but we do have our fair group here that's going to tell us about what's coming forward. So if the fair board folks would like to make their way down to the podium, we can hear about what's going on in the 101st anniversary of the fair.
Mayor?
Mayor Shirley Bryant is going to hand out
Thank you.
cards for us to display to let everyone know the fair is here.
Hard parts.
Yeah.
You need a red jacket.
I already yelled at her for not wearing her red
good.
jacket. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John Newhauser. I'm president of the Manatee River Fair Association, and I thank you on behalf of everyone for allowing us to come before you today. Last year, we celebrated the last fair of our first century. This year, we're really honored to be celebrating the first fair of a new century. So, on behalf of the entire board, I would like to invite you, your family, friends, everyone in Manatee County to come join us from the 12th through the 22nd and come celebrate with us our 101st Manatee County Fair. Our theme this year is Fair Fun 101. We have worked hard to provide a variety of ways to educate fairgoers as they explore all of the ways to have fun at the fair. We believe we put together a great lineup this year. We have great musical entertainment, ground and strolling acts, arts and crafts, livestock exhibits are outstanding this year, as well as a multitude of informational exhibits in our exhibit hall. For those interested in the Midway, I'm pleased to announce that we're going to be debuting 4 brand new rides this year at the fair. So that should make a lot of people excited. Also, to help fairgoers keep everything straight and sort everything out, we are introducing a Manatee County Fair app that's compatible with Apple and Android devices. So we encourage everyone, that's all the fairgoers, to download this app. It'll have maps, all the entertainment, everything that's going on at the fair every day right at your fingertips. So we're excited about that. So as you can see, we have a lot of new things in store for everyone. So please come on out and join us in Fair Fun 101. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Anyone else want to say something about the fair? Mr. West, I know you usually
Yeah.
have something to add.
Good morning. I'm Daniel West. I'm the general manager of the Manatee River Fair Association, and it's wonderful, again, to come before y'all. The Manatee County Fair is very special in that it is a real grassroots effort every year. It takes hundreds of volunteers in the livestock area, arts and crafts. The fair directors, they kind of kid about it because they have to pay their membership $50 a year, then spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in meetings with me to plan everything. But it's a lot of fun, and it takes in every segment of our county, from Mayaca City, the islands, Palmetto, Duet, Bradenton, Bayshore Gardens. So there's people involved from every area of our county. And also I want to thank all of the sheriff's office, Palmetto Police, emergency services here in Manatee County. We all work together to come up with great plans to make sure that all the fairgoers come out and have a wonderful, safe time at the fair. We want it to still be a family affair and want everybody to come out, just have a wonderful, safe time and make memories for future fairs. Like John said, we're starting a new century of fairs, and we want to continue to keep it a family affair for years to come. So please come out and enjoy. I'm going to leave posters here, and they have our entertainment, the dates and stuff on it. I see they've already got your animals up there for a reminder. So, but just come out and enjoy the fair the 12th through the 22nd. Thank you for everything that you do and Manatee County does to help us do this every year. Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay.
Commissioner Trace wanted to add
Well, I
something.
know I'll be seeing you guys quite a bit, starting Thursday, having supper with most of y'all,
Yes.
10 days, and we'll hate each other by Sunday, and then we'll do it all next year. But you did not mention the one thing I think is the most important part of the fair, the kids.
Oh, yeah.
The
That
kid
is-
programs that this fair does, my father was in them, I was in them, my son, so I know we did 3 generation of the 4-H, the FFA with all the animals, and I learned so much. So it's a very valuable thing for our county, and I love you guys, so looking forward to seeing you.
Mayor Bryant.
I can't resist. Last night at our meeting, I shared something because Commissioner Trace, you touched on exactly, I was standing there thinking about something I shared last night. Every year, the kids that go through the different programs, whether it's 4-H or FFA, it's not just about making money at the end of the fair, because some of them really don't come out. What it is, it's about building character and commitment to the animals. Last night, I shared a letter that I got from a young lady, and she had raised a pig, and just before the fair, she had her letter written, because they have to write them by hand, and she had written her letter, had the picture and everything ready to go out. Her pig died.
Oh.
What she sent me was the original letter, a picture of her and the pig, but she invited me to come anyway and support the others in the program. That's character. So to your point, exactly.
That's
Thank you.
wonderful, and we have one of the largest programs, I understand, around in the
We
state.
do, and last night, the swine came in last night. They were weighing in till 6 o'clock. We ended up with more than 150 swine. That'll be auctioned off this coming Saturday, the 14th at 1 o'clock. And then also the dairy came in last night. So, but this year we have over 600 youth livestock exhibitors. So really, we're one of the largest youth livestock shows in the state and for a single county.
Yeah.
So that's a real testament to our 4-H programs and our FFA programs in the area, middle schools and high schools. So
Well, I think it's important, and we're going to have beautiful weather.
Ma'am.
It looks like the week is going to be
that's correct.
incredible.
It looks great.
And, it's important for, it is unusual, let's knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's such an opportunity for the people that live here, that have just moved here, to see what Manatee County is all about.
That's right,
Because our
that's right.
agricultural heritage is so important, and you guys do a great job of preserving that. So thank you for what you do, and look forward to a great fair. And I thought she was going to say it was about the food. I mean, that's where I go.
That too,
I gotta
that as
admit.
well. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Carol? I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Yeah, I've been well, that's all right. That's all
Say
right.
bye, guys.
Yeah, bye, guys.
I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't see you.
I hit it twice.
I thought Commissioner Whitmore was going to say she and Chappie introduced me to corn dogs a couple years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, I had my first
Right.
corn dog, and they were great, and I'm hooked.
Good.
All right.
I think they should have bought some of the fair food with them.
I think so too. We need to tell them next year.
I'm sure the cinnamon bun guy is already there.
Yeah.
I'll have to discuss that with him next year.
Yeah, you got to get those Amish donuts fresh, though. That's why they got to be good. All right. Yeah, we shouldn't be talking about food already. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start citizen comments. We only have 20 minutes before our 10 o'clock time certain, but I've only got a few people signed up, so I'm going to call the names and the names that I was, in the order I was given, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. You need to just come forward, state your name for the record. And Debbie Glow, Deborah Glow, you are first up. If you want to come forward, please.
Good morning, my name is Debbie Glow. I'm a citizen of Manatee County, and I guess you all missed me for a while. Well, I'm back, probably for a while. The first thing, I don't know what I have on that list. Betsy,
Doesn't
would you
matter.
mind telling me? It doesn't make any difference?
Social media.
Okay, social media. As everybody knows right now, after the fiasco that we had with the, I think the dog, with the dog that was killed within 2 hours that was brought into the shelter, Manatee County Transparency and Credibility page had this blasted all over the page. I also was interviewed by Bo Beth. I am one of the administrators. I'm not going to hide it. Okay, what I want to tell you about this page is it is a page that we are considering watchdogs of the animal shelter and possibly other things that are going on in the county. What I want to tell you is what we do. People think we're just, we just sit behind our computers all day and do nothing. Well, most of us work, there's 2 or 3 of us that work 8 to 10 hours a day. We pull reports, we get them every month, we review them, we submit PRRs. Once we get the PRRs back, we start checking them against other information that we've received. Many of us have worked with rescues. We have donated our donated money. We have donated things to, mainly to Meowtown. Let me see what else we've done. I'm trying to think. Oh, we did try to work with the shelter. Well, we were told, and excuse me, to go to hell. They didn't want us there. Our basic thing is process and procedures. That's what I did, that's what Agatha did, and that is what the other individual did who helps us with this. So I just wanted to make that clear that we're just not computer, keyboard warriors, as somebody called us. We do work our butts off. And we did change the mission statement on this, on the Facebook page. And also, some of us are admins on 2 or 3 other pages. So again, it's not like we're not doing anything all day. So I can kind of move on from that. I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, the next thing I want to do is talk about, I'm the process and procedures person. So what I want to do is I submitted a PRR to our department on, I'm trying to figure out where my things are at, like in January, just a few days ago. And it came back to me, and it was on the SOP. I wanted to know if there was an SOP for animal services, an updated SOP. The answer I got back was, as of the last one I received on June 6th, 2016, there has not been an updated SOP. And, which I have that at home, and I was reviewing it this morning. And the only thing that changed were the adoption processes. Could we have flipped the light back, or can I just keep talking?
24.
Yeah, they were having a very hard time starting, so you've had plenty of time, so just
Okay,
keep going.
I'll just go on.
She's at 16.
Okay, I just want to,
Just keep going.
okay, I just want to make some comments on the SOP that I read. It said, when we get a new employee in animal services, every new employee is given the SOP to read, and they're also given a paper to sign off that they have received the SOP. I don't know if this is happening. I haven't done a PRR on that. I plan to. Okay. There's also something that is something that was really serious, and I went back all the way back to 3/11/2015, and since the SOP hasn't changed, Mr. Hutchinson wrote this to a lady that was right.
You need to wrap up, and I'm not sure, Deborah, if you know, but our procedures allow 3 minutes total. That's it.
No, I'm talking on 3 different topics.
Doesn't matter. We changed
No.
the procedures. It's 3 minutes, period. And I didn't know if you knew that or not, because
No,
I
I
know
did
that you
not.
put down. So if you could just wrap it up so that we could.
But I
move
need to
forward.
really read this.
Okay, read it quickly.
Okay. This was done by a reporter was doing this, and she was asking Mr. Hutchinson a question. And this is what, anyway, I know you said there must be 3 people who agree to make a kill decision, and that an exception to not killing is if an animal is in acute distress. Who are the three people who must agree? Shelter supervisor, vet tech, and either Pete Dewar or me, who they, at that time, they were the chiefs over there. Are there any exceptions? Not supposed to be. I don't know of any since we put this program in place. The one exception is that if the vet believes the animal is in serious distress and it's after hours, or he just can't reach a manager here, then he has higher authority as a physician to relieve the animal's suffering if he believes it's terminal in any way.
Okay, thank you. Next up I had signed up is Catherine Edwards, if you'd like to come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. I'd like to talk briefly about the P25 emergency communication system. Last quarter, 2016, the county commissioners and board passed a suspension of receiving permit applications for right-of-ways for small cell communications. And speaking with property records, I have discovered that Manatee County and work that's being performed on its main tower with respect to the P25 emergency communication system is almost complete. That's the tower at 1009 4th Avenue West. The reason the county suspended temporarily until sometime in February the right-of-way permit applications was because it didn't fully understand the technology that was being utilized with respect to small cell towers. If that's the case, how is it the county in its emergency communication system can continue to install these products when it doesn't have the ordinances in place to properly legislate it? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, I have Candy Luther.
I'll go as fast as I can. The first thing I want to talk about is animal services, which Deborah Glow already mentioned a little bit about, and I don't know if you even know what happened with that, but there was an incident occurred on December 22nd, and a man's dog was wrongfully killed at Animal Services. It was all over the newspaper, it was on every news network, social media, huge story written up in the Braden Herald slandering the veterinarian. And the veterinarian, I have to come to the conclusion that she was following an order that was most likely given to her by whoever's supervising at Animal Services. Because according to the Matrix study, the order is supposed to come from the director. And if the director is not there, then who was overseeing Animal Services that day? So who would have been the acting director of that day? Where is the 3-signature documentation as to why this animal was being killed and who signed off on it? And this brings us to the fact that there are no policies and procedures being followed at Animal Services. Every person who has changed and as they've taken over one person from another, the same policies and procedures have not been transferred to the next person. Rumor has it that was done away with when this person left, that was changed when that person left, but yet no copy of SOPs. What are the policies and procedures? And since you guys set policy, I'm requesting that you review and establish policies and procedures and make sure that they are being enforced. That brings us to then my next thing to talk about is county administrator. And county administrator is the one who oversees public safety director, who oversees animal services. And if he's going to be leaving us and we're going to be transitioning over to a new county administrator, who's going to be responsible for making sure that things are set and followed during this transition period? It's important that everything doesn't get lost in, oh, well, that was him, and, oh, well, this is a new person, and, we have change, and so therefore, how many mistakes were made during this change? The next thing I wanted to address is DCF. I know of an incident where a baby was born to a mother who was on drugs during her pregnancy, and the baby tested positive for drugs 3 months premature birth. He was released from the hospital to the mother, who was on drugs during her pregnancy, who for 6 months couldn't stop doing drugs. So, yet, somehow, she went home with a baby. I got message that there was no food for this baby. I bought formula, took it to someone else to take to them. I didn't have direct contact. Contacted DCF. DCF went to check on the baby, and because there was food there, they wouldn't do anything. So it's my fault the baby wasn't removed from the home because I'm the one that took the formula there. But this mother then recently was living in a tent with this same baby.
Thank you. We, of course, have, you need to have any of those concerns brought to the Department of Children and Family, which is a state department that this organization does not oversee. So please bring your concerns to that department.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes left. If anyone would like to address the board, this is on future agenda items that come before this county commission. We have until 10 o'clock time certain. If there's anyone who would like to come forward and address the board for 3 minutes, now is your opportunity. on something that's not on this agenda. This is future agenda items. Anyone? Okay. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close this portion. I will, since we can't take up our 10 o'clock time certain until 10 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and open up the consent agenda, just to ask if there's anything that the board would like to pull from the consent agenda. Number 17 is being deferred, as I understand. Anything else? I got the county attorney on the board. County attorney, perhaps you wanted to say something and I didn't catch it quick enough?
No, your timing is quite perfect. Thank
Okay.
you, Madam Chair. Yes, item 15 on your consent agenda, Commissioner Trace will be announcing a voting conflict on that item, and therefore I would suggest that that item be pulled to be addressed individually in light of the voting conflict that we'll need to deal with.
Okay. Only 15 and 17. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Just a mention on, I see Charlie Hunsinger here, and just a shout out on item number 13, that the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has awarded us a grant for $60,000 to create an artificial reef complex that will be for recreational fishing and diving off the coast of Manatee County. And in 2010, it was mentioned that the economic impact study that was headed by University of Florida showed that artificial reefs in Manatee County resulted in an annual reef-related impact of over $23 million and 234 full or part-time jobs. So great shout out to Charlie and his team for getting this award, and great job. And then on number 25, EMS grants are getting a grant. They're really stepping up. The grant was from the Florida Department of Health. They're providing funding and expanding our pre-hospital emergency medical services system. That's fairly new. And it's going to be used for expandable patient services for EMS stretchers and 6 ballistic vests and helmets to prepare them for any incidents that happen. So great job. Shout out to this grant as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll go to public comment on the consent agenda. I have Catherine Edwards signed up for item number 8. Would like to come forward, address the board?
I have 2 items. Am I just to speak on item number 8?
Sure, you can speak on 8, and then 18 is what you have, right?
Okay. Do I have 6 minutes or 3 minutes?
You get 3 minutes per item.
Thank you. I won't take 6.
Okay.
On item number 8, the warrants list, one of the 2 big ticket items there was Airbus DS Communications for $7.25 million. It wasn't clear to me if this was for the work that had been performed on the P-25 communications system on the main tower, or if it was for something else completely unrelated. And it's impossible for me to get clarification on that between the time the agenda is posted and the time the meeting occurs. So that's all for number 8. On number 18, there's a lease agreement with Airport Commerce LLC with the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And I was wondering why we would be leasing some space when we have all of this space in the old jailhouse that's not being used, and that is not going to be able to be used for any purpose other than a government purpose, given the letter that the Manatee County Sheriff wrote and was signed by every single judge in the 12th Judicial Circuit. So I can't quite understand why the county is leasing something at the airport with Airport Commerce LLC when we have this space that could be utilized for that as a government function, particularly in light of the fact that it is leasing the space to conduct business of government administration. It doesn't make sense to put it all the way down in Sarasota. By the way, the agenda has the wrong address posted, but it's the correct address in the attachments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board on the consent agenda only? These are items 8 through 28, with 15 and 17 removed. Anyone who'd like to address the board on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion. Commissioner Whitmore.
Actually, Mickey and I and Dan had a discussion about the MPO offices yesterday. I don't know, mainly because I asked about it, but it equals out that Manatee County, it doesn't cost Manatee County anything, because what it's paid for, Sarasota and Manatee County have, Mickey helped me, have an interlocal agreement, and it's funded by grants from the state. So, I mean, if you could help with that, because I was wondering, you know, we've tried to think about moving it to various places in the past, Catherine, but we actually share this with Sarasota County because it's the region. But you may want to clarify that, Mickey, if you don't mind, for our discussion.
Commissioners, I'm happy to lend clarification. First of all, this is not a new concept. This government has had a landlord-tenant relationship with Airport Commerce LLC since 1993. So what is that? Over 3 decades. That we've had a landlord-tenant relationship with this particular entity we are, of course, the host government for the local metropolitan planning organization and have been, again, for 30-plus years. Yes, it is true that the money that we expend in leasing this office space for the MPO personnel is ultimately recouped by the county through a series of grants that run through the Florida Department of Transportation. So at the end of the day, the lease arrangement costs us nothing.
Okay, Commissioner DiSabatino.
And also the location is equally distant between both counties, basically, and it's
Yes.
easy for access for Sarasota County and Manatee County when they get together, and it's right off Calabasas and 15th Street, so it's a good
Yes.
location.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Catherine Point, since the article dealing with the jail situation has been put on Front Street, I get that question every day now. Most people didn't know we had all that empty space, so they want to know why we continue to build buildings now. And that's why I need to be clarification on what's going on and what was said and when it was said. dealing with individuals that do not and have refused to move there. So she's absolutely correct, even though this issue is different, but consistently, since that was a big article that took place with all that vacant space, people want to know, what are we doing? Thank you, Madam Chair.
And just to follow up, Charles, I think a lot of us have said that we need to have a discussion regarding the jail and what the opportunities are, and try to kind of retrace our steps. You know, there were some very innovative ideas put forward and a lot of concerns put forward. But I think most of us would like to talk about that, what the opportunities are. You know, I had a reporter ask me why we don't use it for storage. And I said, well, that was one of the suggestions at one time, but the concern was the weight load would be too much if the storage got wet. So we need to kind of have an opportunity in a work session, I think, to talk through this and see what the limitations are, what the space is, and whether or not we can partner with somebody on that space, or it doesn't really work well for office space, though I think probably a lot of people would like to see government people behind bars. I'm not sure the MPO is willing to take that role, being an MPO member. So I think that is going to come up for discussion. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Ed, if I'm not mistaken, there's also some extensive remediation that needs to be done for that building. It's not kind of well building right now.
It's a building. When we have this workshop, we could take you through the current condition of the building and the options available and a bit of the history of how we got to where we are.
I think that'd be a good idea. Commissioner Trace.
I move we accept the consent agenda with the two that have been pulled off.
Three now?
We have two items that have been pulled. Number 15 and number 17 is being deferred.
44 is deferred.
I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second discussion. Commissioner Whitmore, did you have a question?
Isn't there something on our other agenda that said 44 was deferred? Oh, I don't know where I got that. Something was deferred. So it's just 15 and
15
17?
is pulled, we'll be acting separately. 17 is being deferred, so I think as long as we say 17 is deferred, that's good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes. I just did want to ask about Catherine's question on the Airbus, that $7.2 million. Could you confirm what that funding was for in terms of the Airbus?
I will, and I will let you know, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Top of my head.
It was
yeah.
on the clerk's consent agenda, and I'll have to look and see who that vendor is.
And probably the best way to get that answer is to go to Citizens Action Center. That's always the best way to get any answer to any question on the agenda. And I know it's a clerk's, but the clerk oversees the spending of the money. They're our last review to make sure that whatever spent is done consistent with whatever contract was in place. So it's always best to go directly to Citizens Action Center to get the answer, because I don't think any of us can answer that question for you, but we will find out. All right.
I have a question before we.
Okay.
Also, you know, when you get the agenda, when we get it, like on Thursday before, you can always email the different departments, and they respond right away. I know.
Citizens don't.
I can send something to the clerk, citizens can send something to the clerk, and they'll usually respond pretty quickly. I just have a question in general, and it's an attorney question. When we are approving, and it's not specifically related to the one we pulled, but in general, when the county acquires property, maybe we can have a discussion later, what is the procedure regarding appraisals? Do we have an in-house appraiser, and do we also hire an outside appraiser to have 2 or 3 different appraisals? And I know that when there's a person acquiring a property or wanting to sell a property, they have their own, but do we get 1 or 2 different appraisals because, you know, they're as different as the different people?
Before you answer that, we have a 10 o'clock time certain. We're going to do number 15 separate. I know that's kind of related. Robin, if you're okay with waiting
Yes.
till we take up number 15 after the 10 o'clock time certain. Mickey, did you have something you had to add regarding that?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to correct my earlier math. Our relationship with the landlord for the MPO office space has existed for 24 years. I think I suggested 3 decades, so I was off by several years. So in any event, 24 years.
That was tricky doing math.
Sorry for that math error.
Okay, all right, well, we'll wait for the discussion on property acquisition until we take up item number 15. But this time, I'm going to open up item number 30, which is a tax exemption request for Allied New Technologies 2, Inc. Staff, Karen and...
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board, Mr. Hunziker and Mr. Palmer, good morning. I'm here this morning to bring to you our very first economic development ad valorem tax exemption for Allied New Technologies 2. We've received an application from the company, and I'd like to just go over some of the history of how we got here today. Back in 2013, June of 2013, there was a referendum by the voters that approved tax exemption for companies, certain companies in Manatee County, and this is authorized by statute 196.1995. And by statute, the exemption must be approved through an ordinance. In addition, Ordinance 1431 was adopted to authorize granting economic development tax exemption, and Resolution 14084 was adopted, providing the guidelines and the policies and procedures for the process. This was done by the board in June of 2014. Pursuant to Article 15 of Chapter 229 of the Manatee County Code, the Board of County Commissioners will make a decision on whether to grant the exemption, the duration of the exemption, the percentage of the exemption, utilizing these policy guidelines. Now, just a little update on the application and the information that's in your agenda packet. You'll find this on Exhibit 1 of the ordinance. By the application, the applicant has promised to create 53 jobs by January 1st, 2019. The average wage of the non-management jobs is $52,800 and some change. And the average wage of the management jobs is $106,000 and some change. The capital investment will be $53.8 million. It's very significant for our county. In addition, the company has an innovative product with unique license designs. They've made a commitment to local procurement. They also have a commitment to environmental sustainability. Their projected sales inside our MSA is $3.1 million. But more important, outside of our MSA, their projected sales are $10.9 million. And that's $10.9 million of new money for our community. The company will also have performance requirements. If the board approves the exemption today, staff will come back to you at a later date to execute a performance agreement, obligating the company to satisfy all of the items described in the application, the items I just spoke about. These elements include the job creation, the average wage, the capital investment, the innovation requirement, local procurement, environmental sustainability, and projected sales inside and outside of the MSA, as they stipulated in their application. In the event that the project is not completed as represented in the application, Allied New Technologies 2 will not receive any benefit of tax exemption without prior approval of the board, because their agreement can be amended at the board. Based on the scoring for this company, the proposed tax exemption schedule is over an 8-year period, and you can see it starts out with year 1 and 2 at 100% of the taxes being exempted, and then there's a declining schedule for the rest of the time period through 2025. The projected total of taxes exempted is $1.2 million, and the 10-year projected tax benefit estimated to be $1.297 million for the county. In addition, more than $2.9 million will be provided to the Manatee County School District through their taxes. Now I'd like to introduce the company representatives who are here with us today and who will make a presentation shortly. We have Mr. Jim Palmer, who's the CEO, Mike Coven, the CFO, and Mike and I have worked very closely together over the past about 4.5 years alongside of the EDC. Bob Namoff, the chairman, is not here today. He's under the weather, and I'm sure some of you can understand that. We also have Dan Banclater, the General Counsel for Allied New Technologies, and Ron Noble, the Environmental Counsel for New Technologies. So Jim Palmer will now come up and make a presentation on behalf of the company, and after his presentation, we'll be available for questions.
Can I just get a quick word in?
You may.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I just need to add a couple of quick comments. For the record, I am Assistant County Attorney Bill Clegg. As Karen pointed out in her presentation, this process has been several years in the making to be able to grant these types of exemptions. It is governed by Florida Statute 196.1995. That's not a fun statute to read. It's got a lot of detail in it. You might want to take some Tylenol after you're done. It's a bit of a headache of a statute. And it has a lot of criteria in it, so one might think this is a quasi-judicial process. But the statute says that in its discretion, the board may choose to grant a tax exemption to a qualified business. So it is a legislative process, but this is a public hearing. So at the appropriate time, Madam Chair, I would ask that when you call for public comment, you open it as a public hearing and close it as a public hearing. That's all I have.
All righty. And the applicant will come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners, County Attorney, and County Administrator. Appreciate you giving us the time to talk a little bit about our company and our project that we have here. Just a little more history on Allied. Allied is a 60-plus-year-old company. It was started as a garage business in Miami, Florida, by the father of Bob Namoff, our chairman. Our primary business is water treatment. We service about 85% of the municipality water treatment and sewage treatment in the state of Florida, and about 70% of the pools are serviced by the chemicals that we manufacture. Currently, we have 6 plants in the U.S. and 1 distribution facility and several overseas facilities that we are joint ventured to. We cover about 18 states in the United States and 22 overseas countries. The picture that you see on the screen now is a plant in Fort Pierce, Florida, that was started in 2010. It's a plant similar to the one that we're talking about building in Manatee County. That particular plant is the largest of its size in North America. The plant we're talking about in Manatee County will be about 80% of the size of that. The reason for building these plants is very simple. The materials that we make to make the sodium hypochlorite and provide the disinfecting qualities to water treatment and sewage treatment are quite dangerous if you bring them in by rail car. This particular plant takes salt, water, and a whole lot of electricity and produces that product instantaneously. And the product that we're producing is about twice the strength of Clorox. If you're familiar with having a pool and have been to a pool store, that's the type of product that we're talking about. So we're not talking about an extremely hazardous material. We currently run a facility in Tampa, Florida that makes it the old-fashioned way with chlorine and caustic, and this is dedicated by DHS and EPA as an inherent safer technology. Also wanted to let you know that I have several people here with me, as you heard from Karen, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have or anything we can help you with. We're, as I said, a long-standing company. We already have run a plant very similar to this for the last 8+ years, so it's not like something we're just hoping it works, and we're not a startup company. So, and the benefit for the county, other than all the other jobs that we talked about and the salaries and everything else, is that during a hurricane, we're an essential service, and we will be in your backyard to be able to provide those chemicals that are so badly needed for water treatment and sewage treatment, which are the 2 major things that is needed after a hurricane. And we do business with the county and with several of the municipalities around the county, so they're very excited about us having the potential to be in Manatee County. So we would like to ask that you provide us some financial assistance in locating our facility here, as it is a $53 million investment. We also currently use several local vendors. We use the port, and we also use several vendors there. With the plant that you see there, we bring our salt into Manatee County, and it's unloaded here and trucked over to Fort Pierce, Florida. And several of those vendors are here today. We're also using local architectural firms in Agarte and Associates, and Genesis Engineering is assisting us with potentially building this facility here. So I'm asked if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them or have one of my colleagues answer them.
Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The facility in St. Lucie County, where is that located in St. Lucie County?
It's on Rangeline Road, which is actually has a mailing address of Fort Pierce, and it is about 4 miles from the Tropicana facility, if you're familiar with that particular area.
I think I may have passed that to a FAC meeting when I was down there. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I just want to, it was helpful to get the additional information. I appreciate that from staff and the applicant. You will not be discharging or any wastewater on the property. You don't have a deep well at this time. There's no, the intention is that the waste product will be trucked off-site. Is that correct?
Yes, it'll be trucked in. It'll actually be trucked off the site to a different county. But the waste product is basically about 3 times the strength of salt water. It's a salty solution. It's a brine salt solution. It's not a hazardous material in the sense of that you're normally concerned about. In fact, other than for sodium and chloride, which is what salt is, sodium and chloride, like table salt, other than for those 2 components, the waste material actually meets all the primary and secondary drinking standards. So if you were able to remove those 2 out of it, you could actually drink the material.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Trace.
Yes, I saw that you're a fairly decent-sized water user, and whereabouts you getting your water from, please?
We'll be buying it from the county, and we'll use approximately 200,000 gallons a day, 7 days a week. And we'll also have sanitary sewer, which we will be supplied by the county as well.
Okay. Commissioner Whitmore.
This is our first one, and we've been waiting for this, I think, since 2013. So it's good that the first project that's coming to us is near the port. I'm very happy about that, and what your product is. So it is on the, you bought part of the HRK property, correct?
Correct.
And that's where you're going to be located, near Air Products?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
just
think
the east of Air Products is the property site. It's approximately 12 acres of land.
So when your plant needs salt, it'll be coming from the port. We'll get those tariffs, yay.
Correct.
Great economic, good salary range, very good salary range, and that, I think it's a good fit, especially where you're being located. So I appreciate you. I think it took 4 years for you to get here today?
Yes.
4 years, I've heard? Yeah, so.
It's been a long road, but we're here.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Just a quick question. Assuming that we approve this today, what would be your projected time of getting this built and get it operational?
We're starting in the engineering phase right now. That's in the process. We've already had some pre-meetings with your county as far as building permits, et cetera, and with the water and sewer departments. So we're planning on starting this as soon as we would get this approval. Actual construction, we're probably looking at sometime in May or June to start actual construction. And we hope, if our project moves on as well as we expect, we hope to be in operation by July or August of 2018. I know that we talked about January 1st, 2019. We'd rather be early rather than late, so we didn't want to tell you, give you a hope that we would be done before. If we are, then it's all better for all of us.
Sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
How many employees do you have now working for you?
In total company?
Total.
We have over 300 employees working for us in our company as far as in the U.S. We don't keep track of the overseas joint ventures because they are just that. We don't count those in our U.S. grouping, so.
The 53 potential positions we're talking about now, is that the total amount of employees you will have working to that facility?
Of the new facility?
Correct.
The new facility, that would be the wage for the non-managerial personnel. The managerial personnel would even be more than that.
So you'll be employing more than 53?
How many employees were you going to have at that?
I'm sorry. That plant, somewhere between 50 and 60 employees.
Okay, so if we approve this event 6 years, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, will you still have the same number of employees?
Yes, we will. There are a lot of those employees are truck drivers, so they'll be needed moving forward. The plant itself runs 24/7, so you basically need 4 shifts of people. That's why the large number of people, so.
Good.
Okay. Commissioner DeSabatino?
Yeah, and just to continue on that discussion, because that's what I was going to ask about. Do you bring employees, or are you going to be hiring local, or how's that going to work?
Our plan is to hire locally. Normally, you don't do well disrupting employees and moving them to different areas. So our intention is to hire them locally. How we did it in Fort Pearson, the same plan would be here. As the plant is being constructed at the end and all the piping is being put in, we would bring them on board locally and we would train them as we do that. There's what we call commissioning of the plant, and that's basically when you make sure all the pipes are where they're supposed to be and everything is working, each individual component's working. And then the startup and that normally takes about 2 months, and then the startup takes 2 to 3 weeks, and that's when you really actually make something. You don't just run water through the system and test it. The meantime, you have the employees on board. They get to learn. They get to see. It's great to show an employee, here's the SOPs and standard operating procedures, and here's the plans for the plant. But when they can actually go out and turn valves and do things, even with water in them, they learn a lot better. So the intention would be to have a lot of those employees on, but to answer your question, locally is better for us. Our truck drivers are all home nightly, so we want them here where they would be.
Cool, and that's great. And you might know we have the Suncoast Workforce Board. Sharon and I sit on that, and so hopefully you'll be working with them and going through the process for the training. And like we did over at HRK, Commissioner Whitmore was helpful in bringing on MTC, and if you needed to train people for jobs, and they created programs for us, so that was great. And I just want to give a shout out for Karen and the team. I mean, so much work, 4 years, and keeping it a secret from us. You know, you can't even get the information out of her. I've tried. And all these hoops that you had to go through, she had to go through. I mean, just kudos to staff, and have our first project that we can actually use the tax abatement dollars. It's a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ball?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is, I think, great use of our tax abatement dollars, so it's going to be a nice partnership. One question about the employees that, when you were just talking, that it made me think about, is there any special training that your employees have to go through? Or you might need, like, some classes for them to go to or anything like that?
Unfortunately, for us, this is not where you can find somebody and just pick them and put them in place. You've got to actually train them. There is all kinds of training that we do. We have a whole department that does training, a risk management department, et cetera. They'll be involved with that, but we would solicit any help that we could get. In Fort Pierce, I think somebody talked about some of the workforce support. They were very helpful that way. I think other than the plant manager who happens to have run these type of plants for over 40 years, other than him, everybody else is pretty much local and came up through the ranks, if you would. And our our concept of starting to bring the employees on before the plant's really done, that makes it a lot more helpful. And, that's a big investment for us, but we want to make that investment. So that's why the wages are where they're at. Once you train one of these people, you don't want to lose them.
Right, right, I understand. So, Karen, I'm sure that you guys have maybe talked about if we can help in some way with employee training?
Yes, Commissioner Baugh. When an incentive is adopted by the board, the county and the EDC continue to work with the company throughout their time here in Manatee County, so forever. And we will be working with Allied, the EDC, and CareerSource Suncoast to access the training dollars that are available through the state of Florida, and we'll help them in every way possible to get every dollar possible for that.
Perfect, perfect. It seems like to me, you'll use approximately 216,000 gallons of water per day. You're not putting in any water use wells, which I'm really glad about, in all honesty. And the 23,000 gallons of brine wastewater per day, I mean, that's not going to be used. You're going to ship it off, get it off the property, and you use our port. It sounds like a win-win to me, so welcome.
Well, that's why we're interested in doing this with you and partnering with you.
Great, thank you.
And we do appreciate the patience that it's taken to work through a lot of these issues. I think we know our staff. Again, this is our first tax abatement. It's really not something we want to do, but we need to do it to encourage development. I mean, let's face it, we just as soon take the taxes from you, but we understand we need to partner with you to make this work and to have this investment. And it's a short-term, hopefully, over the life of your business, it's a short-term incentive. It's not a long-term incentive. But I have to think that people listening here are hearing the words about jobs availability and the salaries that are going along, and they're probably saying, well, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in employees? What kind of skills are you looking for in your employees? Is that something you could maybe generally state?
Yeah, we're looking for somebody basically that has a high school diploma, that can read and write, that has some aptitude to mechanical work. As far as basically there's three types of employees in the plant itself. There's the employee who just manages and goes around and sees all the equipment. And then there's the control room. And I tell you the story of when we had this facility and started it up, the fire marshal came out to do his final inspection, and he told me he was very concerned, and I was very upset because we had just spent $50-some million, and I saw my career at the company going down the tubes quickly. And he said, I said, I'll do whatever it takes to fix it. And he says, I don't think you can fix it. And I said, well, just tell me what it is. He says, well, I was down to a nuclear facility, and they don't have half the redundant equipment and half the security requirements that you have. And we are really happy that it's here and doing it this way, but we're a little nervous about the facility now. So, but yes, the employee is not we don't need an engineer. We'll have an engineer, but we don't need engineers to do this. It's more of a, learn on the job. So it's a perfect job for, people that are wanting to work. We pick people that have some of those aptitudes that I talked about.
Great, well, it's great. Manufacturing jobs and right here in Manatee County. Sir, did you want to come forward and say something?
I did. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Michael Coven. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Allied New Technologies. And really, I just wanted to speak for a moment to just tell you how great a staff you all have. I've kind of been the tip of the spear from the Allied side, working with Karen for the past 4 years, and between them and EDC, Lauren at EDC, I mean, you have great people here. Karen has put in a lot of time and effort over the last 4 years. As you all know, this is the first time this has ever been done. Sometimes being a pioneer can be difficult. My dad used to say you can always tell the pioneer because it's the guy with the arrow sticking through his chest. But You really have great people, and I wanted to let you all know that we couldn't have gotten anywhere close to getting this done without people like Karen and your staff here, and I just wanted to say thanks for your time, support, and efforts from you all and from your staff. Thanks.
We appreciate that. We know we have great staff, but it never hurts to hear it. And I appreciate you coming forward and stating that. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know I serve on the Manatee Tiger Bay Board, and this was a subject of conversation last night. And it's probably be something that's debated on incentives and things like that, and how do it occur versus businesses here. It was discussed, so sometime in March, I know they're looking forward to have a debate on these issues. I know this is the first one that we've had in Manatee County. How would you go out advertising for local people? What's your process of advertising?
We would use whatever available assistance the county could provide that we were talking about before, and then we would use a local search firm to try to find people, and at worst case scenario, local ads.
What about your diversity? Do you have any other nationality that works for you?
Oh, yes, we have a lot of those, and with being in the municipal bid business, we have several accolades towards that, and, we always pass all the diversity requirements and sustainability from an environmental standpoint. As you as commissioners can recognize, we being majority of our business in bids, that's a big important part for us. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Karen, what you didn't mention, I know we did air products in 57 days. This company qualifies for the fast track, correct?
Right. They do qualify for rapid response permitting. As Jim mentioned, we have already met with them and county staff on numerous occasions from, all the departments, utilities, public works, building and development services, and we are ready to move quickly. They will not need to come to the board. It'll be an administrative permit, and we're ready to get that done, maybe even beat our record.
Good. Let's beat it.
And if I could just say one thing on that, your people in that area have been very, very helpful and, welcome type thing to your neighborhood. So we did the same thing in Fort Pierce, so we used the same model. It worked well there, but your people have been extremely helpful. In fact, explaining to us about a potential road that was going to be out in front of the facility so we could move the plant 12 or 13 feet farther south so we weren't in the area. Very, very helpful and very candid in telling us they want us here, but whatever it takes to get it done, and they've assured us they would like to get construction started as fast as possible as well. So,
Great. Commissioner Bach.
Yeah, one last thing I just want to touch base on is the economic impact to Manatee County as a whole. In looking at the paperwork here, it says above average. Karen, you want to touch base on the economic impact from Allied that will be coming?
Yes, as you know, we do use a return on investment model. The model for tax exemption is a little different than the EDI, but there's 53 jobs. There'll be the spinoff jobs from that. We will be getting, even with the exemption, 1.2 million plus in taxes over the 8-year period. And the school district, I think this is really important. We'll be getting a significant tax as well. I said earlier, I think it's 2.9 million in taxes over the 8 years. So it's a significant impact. Also, the wage of the jobs, very significant, and the ability to, work with CareerSource again, who will advertise for those jobs, hold job fairs on site for the company, and make sure that the company is able to hire locally, and then if not locally, in a wider area in our region. So it is a great impact for us. It's by the port, it's port related, and we were so excited when Air Products was right there in the front yard of the port, and now we'll be really excited to have a second large company located there as well, because, whenever one company goes someplace, other companies think to themselves, why not me? So we hope that'll be the case, too.
Exactly, and it all trickles down, just like you said, so.
Plus, it'll put us in the news for several days. It'll be on websites, and, that kind of free publicity is amazing for economic development. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeSabatino.
And that's all great, and I see our port director here and thank him for coming here today, and he's always on the cutting edge, and you can email him or call him, and he could be in Spain, Portugal, South America, and he calls right back, and we're bringing on the new cooking oil business through the port, and this is great that we have the new South Gate all ready for you to bring your materials back and forth. And also, we talked about the Suncoast. That's such a great partner in our community, because not only do they help you hire and find people, they go through the process, and when people go through the Suncoast, they can get those WIA, WIOA, all these acronyms, basically funding to get training. And they have an allocation through, it's the federal that goes through the state that comes down to us. It's a chain. And so anyone out there who's listening who wants a new career in this business can help get supplemented for their costs for education. And so that's really so it's a great partnership, and a real win-win. And I was listening the other day about, automation is here with the, automatic cars driven, but there's always going to be a need for skilled drivers of trucks and vehicles and so forth. And so you're meeting a need for, present and future job growth in industry, and really, really appreciate it. And, can't say enough for you and your team, and Karen and the team, and just a great day. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Commissioner Smith.
Well, I have a couple of more questions, and I ask the county attorney. This does not come back to us at all. I'm looking at the design of this facility. What would it look like, since that's the gateway coming to Manatee County? It's not behind port doors. I'm concerned about the appearance of what it would look like. I'm also speaking, you got a lot of other large property owners in that area, Jones and the rest of them. The design is very important to me and what it looks like from the road. And it does not come back to us?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Smith, the agreement that they have to sign in order to get the tax exemption does come back to the board. The design of the development does not.
Okay.
Manatee County built into that area around the port a set of development incentives that allow uses like this to be approved administratively, as long as they fall within certain parameters, and this one apparently does. So we do not get into development review of individual site plans, particularly on that HRK property that they call the beachfront that's between the gyp stacks and the port. That is one of the things we put in place years ago to try to incentivize development in this area to make things like this happen.
Well, let me say this for the record, because this is our first one. I love Tropicana. A lot of jobs, opportunity, but appearance is everything to me. And I certainly will be concerned if it starts to look like a bunch of warehouses coming into the main design. I know Hillsborough, when these type of facilities, you don't even know their facilities. So the appearance and so much large parcels of property, based on what this may look like, it can hurt the property value of that area, increase it. I know the jobs are good, but that's my comment from that standpoint. My other question is, if the company don't do what they say they're going to do, what's the recourse for us?
Well, that will be memorialized in the agreement. And the agreement, basically the way it works for them to continue to get that tax exemption each year, they have to continue to perform the conditions of that agreement to build the facility and provide the jobs.
And the 53 jobs, we will be able to document the 53 jobs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and certainly we wouldn't have 53 people who are from St. Lucie County, I wouldn't imagine.
I would have to discuss that with them. We have not.
I mean, I'm
gone
stating for the
into
record, for
level
to
of
clear the
detail.
air and to make sure,
Let me, if I
because
have
that
you
was
to
mentioned
answer that.
last night too briefly, when this discussion came up, not from me, but by some of the board members, though. And I want to put clarity that we're talking about local people having an opportunity to get jobs. I love the incentives. It's a good opportunity for us, but we're not talking about bringing the whole workforce and no local opportunity for employment. I just want to be sure about that.
Let me tell you that if we bring people from St. Lucie County, we'd have to replace them there, and we would be in the same predicament, and we would be moving people. It would cost us a lot more money to move those people than it would to hire somebody here and train them. Either way, they would have to be trained. Our incentive is to use the people locally. On the truck driver side, we just need CDL with hazmat endorsement and tanker endorsements. There's a lot of those type of drivers in this area, actually more in this area than there is in St. Lucie County. The facility in St. Lucie County is in a more of a depressed area than it is here. We believe our job market will be better selection here than what we have there. So our intention is not to move anybody. Now, that's not to say that we won't bring some of those people over for extended periods of time to help train the new people, because they have been doing their job, some of them for 8 or 9 years, but they're not planning on moving. Our intention is not to move people at all.
Okay, all right. I realize you may have one or two. That's not what I'm really talking about. That may have to come.
Now, our intention is not to move anybody from St. Lucie County, because we have a full staff there that's trained and understands that particular plant, and these plants are all a little bit different. It's just like saying, I can drive a car, but every time you drive a different car, it's a little different. So you have to get used to the idiosyncrasies of that particular car. So our intention would be to stay here. Also, to address your concern about the way the facility looks, your zoning and planning people have already told us about landscaping. In fact, landscaping that has, in our opinion, had nothing to do with us out on US 41 that we would have to, support and do. We believe that we'll make this site a lot better than what it currently is. Currently, it has some old buildings that we're demolishing and putting up new buildings. So at the end of the day, I think as commissioners, you'll be very proud to have this in your county.
And the reason I asked this, because it was asked, and also when I go talking to other county commissioners and stuff, and specifically in Polk and different areas like that, and they always tell me one of the main concerns you want to do is protect your interest into your county. Because sometimes that's the only thing people see, and they don't come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I just want to ask Karen if she would verify. I mean, this is in the International Gateway area for the county. This is in the, I can never remember all the acronyms. This thing kept changing. The encouragement zone, the EZ zone, I assume it's all in that
Yes, it is,
designation?
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, and the purpose of that, and I'm not sure, Commissioner Smith, if you're aware, but that was something that was,
Well,
okay, yeah, it was put in place, how many years ago? Way
Like in
before I was on the
2008,
commission.
maybe, 2008?
Yeah,
By your predecessor.
yeah, to be, really, and that was very well thought out to encourage development in this area, recognizing that this is where we have the opportunity for economic development, that we have, this is the area for industrial type uses. So in order to avoid having, sometimes could be very contentious rezonings, the county took the incentive to create the zoning there and to put together kind of a master general development plan, if you will. And I know, because I was on the consulting side, and it was really, yeah, it was, okay, no, let's not start with that
Here
again.
we go again.
And it took a long time to work through a lot of these issues. And staff at that time took a lot of time to create this zoning district so that all of the things would be in place beforehand. And the TIF, we have the TIF in place, as Commissioner DiSabatino reminds me. So this is an area that we built just for folks like you, to be able to say that you could come in administratively, get approval, not have to jump through the rezoning hoops, and that you would comply with all these standards. And I appreciate you saying, well, what does landscaping have to do with it? I mean, those kind of standards were put in place and adopted, and as long as you meet those standards, you don't have to go through a public hearing process, which is having worked in that business for a long time, representing property owners is a big incentive, to not have to have that uncertainty of going through a zoning approval process. So that is an incentive that is offered in this area, and I think it has been well received, but certainly seeing Air Products and now you, I mean, it is being implemented the way it was set up. So I think that's a good thing. So certainly appreciate your question. It is a gateway, no doubt. But I think we've got the standards in place to make sure that that gateway is protected.
Yes, ma'am. And the company will have to get all permits through our Building and Development Services Department. All state and local permits will be required. And those concerns that Commissioner Smith has will be addressed through our staff. And as you know, there's a lot of landscaping requirements in the PDEZ, and also because it is a gateway.
Commissioner Trace.
I move we accept this. Is it a motion, proposal, resolution?
You can open it up. I'll second it, then you have to do public.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the, I think it's actually an ordinance.
It is.
But before we take action, I've got to open it up for public comment. I've got a couple people that are signed up to give public comment. First off, I have Catherine Edwards. If you'd like to come forward, have 3 minutes to address this issue.
Thank you, Catherine Edwards. I just had some questions for the county and for management. For the management, I was wondering if the trucks that would be going in and out of the facilities would be running 24 hours a day, or if they would just be running during daytime. If the St. Lucie facility is planning on being closed in the next 5 years, what is the investment in the facility here in Manatee County? It was mentioned that you use 200,000 gallons of salt water, I believe. I was wondering what is the source for the salt water? For the 23,000 gallons of wastewater, although it will be shipped out of the county, I was wondering if the disposal was going to be in deep well disposals, or what the disposal plans were for it. And I wondered what, if any, freshwater usage you would have. For the county, the questions I had were, if there is indeed considerable freshwater usage with this plant, what the total capacity for freshwater in this county is versus current usage. And with respect to negotiations, it was mentioned in one of the attachments that the law requires the applicant to enter into a written agreement prior to the exemption taking effect. It just, from a negotiating perspective for the county, it seems odd that you would go ahead and grant the exemption without having already negotiated the other agreement, so that the two would be submitted simultaneously for approval. The county's negotiating hand is reduced significantly by approving the exemption and then entering into the agreement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and go through all the public comment, then we're going to almost act like this is a land use. So we're going to go through all the public comment, then we'll give you an opportunity to respond. Next up, I have Sharon Hillstrom.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm Sharon Hillstrom, President and CEO of the Bradenton Area Economic Development Corporation, and welcome to the board, Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Trace. It's nice to meet you. Happy New Year, everyone. I just am going to be very brief, and I just want to say thank you to you commissioners for understanding that this particular incentive is so important for us in terms of economic development. If you remember back in 2013, those of you who were here and approved going to referendum, we were at a competitive disadvantage prior to having this type of incentive. So kudos to all of you that approved going to referendum. And Mr. Hunziker, I remember campaigning with you in the summer of 2013, and we passed, so I was really pleased to see that. We're happy to see that Allied Products here is looking at this property and excited about the potential that that will bring to Manatee County. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Shout out to Lauren Cratch on my team. This was a 4-year endeavor, and I always say economic development is not for people who are into instant gratification. It usually doesn't work that way. So we enjoy a great collaborative working relationship with the county, and we've done really well to date and look forward to continuing that. Some questions arose regarding workforce. So you're aware, once we work with a company, we don't forget about them. We have what we call a business retention expansion program where we're out meeting with our companies all the time, and those companies that are recruited here become one of our existing industries. So in terms of workforce, things like that, we're right there with them providing support so that those workers here are prepared to come and work for your company. One of the other things that we're doing to be sure that education is aligned with industries is we are going to be conducting industry roundtables for all of our targeted sectors that we've identified. So we'll invite you to come, should you all approve this, to be part of those roundtables so that education can hear what you need as an industry to be successful. And one other thing, I wanted to let you know that the press release went out today. We have hired a new Director of Business Development, Maxwell Stewart. He happens to be in the audience today. So again, having these types of incentives will allow us to continue to be very competitive and aggressive as a community so we can bring those great jobs for our community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Others that want to address the board on this issue? I see Mr. Barnaby hanging out in his red jacket. Hard to miss.
Commissioners, Mark Barnaby. I wasn't planning on speaking on this item, but I wanted to show this fine, fair jacket on television. I want to follow up with what Sharon and Karen have said. We'll recall a few years ago we put forward the referendum. You approved that. We campaigned to support it. As former chair of the EDC, I was very much involved in that. And as you also may recall, we were the last county in this area to approve that. This is very important for job creation in our community. And although there is a small cost early on and it diminishes over time, the overall cost and benefit to, or overall benefit to the county through taxes, through the other benefits that come with that well exceeds the amount we're talking about. So I wish these folks luck in Manatee County, and I look forward to a long-term relationship in our community. And thank you very much for hopefully approving this.
Great. Richard Taggart, I was just handed a couple more slips. Sorry, hadn't seen them.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow distinguished commissioners. My name is Richard Taggart. I'm the president of Gulf Coast Bulk Equipment. I believe that most of you are familiar with our relationship with the port in Manatee County. Excuse me. We've made a number of investments into the port recently, most recently the Mosaic project, which we've invested over $2 million. And we have other clients which we're working on some other JPAs at the moment. We are in, I guess we're here mainly in support of Allied. They're one of our valued customers. We worked with them for the last 5 years as a partner. And through that partnership, they've allowed us to grow our company, where we, just on their business alone, we have probably an additional 15 employees working on that account. They've partnered with us to grow together. One of the things about them that we are very excited about is their absolute support priority of environmental health and safety. It's been a major issue with them and a big part of what we do. We feel that their future plans for the facility out Palmetto is paramount to the growth of the port. This not only brings employees for their operation, but it will increase the amount of tonnage that will come through the port, which means it will increase the business that we do with them and the jobs that we have. Appreciate the opportunity to address the board, but I feel this is a great moment for the port, for Carlos, for everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine Zimmerman.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Zimmerman. I am the owner of Christina Cole Trucking here in Manatee County since 1999. We started back in about early 2000. We got a call from Allied inquiring about trailers, how to move their salt over the Fort Pierce area. So my father and I and Allied, we worked closely. We managed and manufactured the tarping system, everything. I started back with them. I had 5 trucks that we started hauling about 8 years ago to Fort Pierce. Today I have 10. So I am averaging about, 1.5, 2 a year, moving with my trailers. Everything that Allied has ever done with me or said to me since the early 2000s, they have come through every step of the way. If there's an issue, it's solved. We never really have issues. But they are really good people to work for, and they've done my company and my guys that have worked for me wonders. They're great. So thank you.
All right, great to hear. Anyone else who'd like to address this request that's before the board today? Now's your opportunity. Come forward. Okay, seeing no one else come forward, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of this public hearing. And staff, I don't know if you want to help. I wrote down all the questions in case you didn't get them, but I can kind of read them off to you. The first question we heard was trucks, whether or not they're going to be coming 24 hours a day.
The majority of the trucks will be during normal business hours, but we do run part of our fleet at night. It utilizes our equipment, and but this is an industrial area. It won't be going through any residential areas or anything like that. It also helps with the amount of traffic that's out on the particular road that's out there, and should help keep that down. And of course, it creates more jobs because you can't use a truck driver more than 11 hours a day. So if you run at night, you have a second truck driver with the same piece of equipment.
Great. We're really happy to hear about our minority-owned trucking business, trucking business. So I'm really glad you were here. The St. Lucie facility, there was a question about whether or not that would be closing.
No, there's no way that would be closing. It's a state-of-the-art plant. It's the largest in North America. It's already at full capacity. The reason we're interested in building this plant is we need more capacity. The good part, as I said before, is that this plant makes a product that's actually very safe to use for water treatment concerning using chlorine gas, which is the old-fashioned way, and we need the actual extra production. So there's no way. And that particular plant, we also ship rail cars out of, and we ship into other states from that plant. So there's no intention to shut that plant in any way.
And there was a question about the investment being made by building this plant, I think was the question.
I think I can answer that in 2 ways. The investment of the plant itself is about $53 million. But I would, when I went through the numbers, I think it's well over $100 million by the time you get all the local people and involvement and everything else that we're going to provide. And we're going to use wherever possible and favor wherever possible local, not only contractors, but also local suppliers. We will continue. We'll have a trucking fleet that will have truck work done. We'll have all kinds of other equipment that needs to come in and do work, rentals, et cetera. So I would say that this total investment we're going to make over the next few years is well over $100 million.
And there was a question about the water use. My understanding was fresh water, but perhaps you could clarify.
Yes, a little over 200,000 gallons of fresh water a day. The wastewater that we're talking about is the brackish brine type of water, which is about 20 to 24,000 gallons a day. It does vary a little bit depending on how the plant is run. But the fresh water will come from the county, and the sewage that is discharged or any discharge that goes out will be basically domestic sewage that would go into the local sewer plant as well.
And I assume you have to get any NPDES permits, any kind of permits that would be necessary for the operation of this facility?
Right, and we'll have to do that, and, you know, we're very used to that. We're very used to a lot of 3- and 4-letter names, EPA, OSHA, FDEP. You know, we know them all too well because of the business that we're in.
Yeah, I work for a civil engineering firm, so I do too. I'm going to have Mark Simpson, if he might come forward, because one of the questions was about whether or not the county has the capacity to serve for this industrial user.
Yes, good morning. Mark Simpson, your Water Division Manager for your County Utilities Department. We have capacity. In the process, they ask about capacity for water and for also for serving their wastewater needs. For the folks that are going to be at the plant. We both have capacity available. On the water side, the particular question was about.
Amber Alert? Oh.
That's an Amber Alert. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know what it was either.
The particular question was about capacity on the drinking water side. Current capacity at the county utilities is about 52.5 million gallons per day. We're using about 40 million gallons over the last year average. So we have enough capacity, sufficient facilities in the area to serve them without any issues. The gentleman talked about working with the utilities department and engineering folks on designing, getting services to them. That's basically taking the services from out on 41 to their location inside the property where they're at. So that's the design that's going on. But the capacity of the facilities is there on 41 for both.
Okay. Thank you. And I know that we've been over the long-term water supply plan, that we have adequate long-term water supplies. And we plan based on population and needs for our long-term water supply. Now, I guess the point is every time we have an individual user, it isn't necessarily going to disrupt the long-term water supply because we plan for that based on the comp plan. Is that correct?
That is correct. And part of our planning process, we do plan for a portion of the water supply to go for industrial users. And currently, we basically are underrepresented in that section. So we have additional capacity available that was planned for industrial users. We don't have that much use right now. But that's part of that 12 million gallons of excess capacity we have now. A portion of that was planned to be for industrial uses.
That's what I thought. Thank you for answering that. And I think the last question, and maybe this is for Karen, kind of the process, if you will. I know this process is a little bit different than other kind of agreements because the process is laid out, I believe, in state statute about how we grant these tax exemptions. It's not really something, I mean, we've negotiated ahead of time, but it's more of a standard that's laid out, pretty prescriptive, if I understand it. Either one of you might want to explain that.
Well, I would like to say that just like our other incentives, often companies are receiving incentive packages or being approved in different locations because there's a competition for the location of the company. And this company is looking in Georgia, as a matter of fact. And so when an incentive is adopted, it's adopted and it's waiting for the company to accept it. And with our EDI, we do that with a performance agreement also. And sometimes the company doesn't accept our incentive because they accept someone else's instead. Also, in this particular instance with the tax exemption, the requirements are outlined in Florida statute that we talked about before, and our procedures are adopted in our ordinance and in our local resolution. And that procedure outlines coming to the board for the approval, and then using the application as a base, designing a performance agreement, which will be reviewed by the county attorney's office, and then will be brought back to the board for execution. Bill?
Madam Chair, I would like to add to that they can't get the exemption without the agreement. It's required in our code. So they're not entitled to an exemption until you receive that agreement and approve it. Also, this isn't something that's set in stone forever once you adopt the ordinance. They have to continue to perform. When we set this up in 2014 in our Code of Ordinances, we did it in Article 15 of Chapter 229, which is our finance section, and we included a Section 229-170, which is entitled Board Revocation. And it means just what it says. If they don't perform, then you have the authority to revoke their exemption and to seek back taxes. It does say that if you gave them an exemption for a year in which they did not perform, you have the power of recourse to go back and apply the taxes to them that they should have been charged. So I'm not concerned that you're going to take an action today that is going to somehow give away your leverage or your position to be in an arm's length relationship with this business. I don't want that to reflect in any way on them. I believe what they say, but it is our job to make sure you're protected going through these transactions, and we feel you are.
Thank you.
And-
Yeah, I thought it was important to note that we are in the negotiating phase. We have laid out the parameters, and my understanding of the agreement is just to codify it, if you will, to be able to, cross all the Ts, dot all the Is, and let all the lawyers bless it.
To spell out the details of what they've committed to do in a contract so that we have the ability to seek recourse under the power of contract as well as under our taxing power. The first is a lot easier to enforce than the second in terms of just going to court and asking for relief. The other one is very powerful, but there's more process.
Okay.
When you are ready, I would like to read some suggested clarifying language for the motion.
Okay, we have a couple of, we have 3 more commissioners on the board with
Okay.
questions, and then we'll be ready.
All right,
We'll
thank
call on you. And Carol, I'm sorry, I can't open the public comment portion again, so if you have questions, you'll have to defer them to staff. Carol?
I just wanted to bring up that when we have salt trucks come in, we as Port Authority members, we know that when the ships come in for salt, they are literally 24/7. The trucks are there taking them for 24/7 for like a week. And it's like, I remember it's like every 10 minutes we were getting a salt truck because it's that important. And I assumed now they were going to you. So I
Yes.
wasn't aware of that. So we've been doing that for a few years. So it is a 24/7 when a ship comes in.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to be sure, since this is the first one, that we're crossing the dots and the Ts, and maybe Attorney Clegg, with his motion, will clarify everything. Catherine makes a good point, and I understand where she's coming from. So I'm trying to look at this here from a aspect of a county commissioner and also as a business person myself. So I understand exactly what Catherine's talking about. So maybe if I support this, maybe the language that Mr. Clegg is talking about presenting to us may help me a little better. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we already have a motion and a second?
We
Yeah, they're
do.
just
The
gonna
motion is the
clarify it.
recommended motion. If we need to add something before, after I finish everybody's comments, county attorneys on the board, we'll see if we need to add something to the motion. Commissioner DeSabatino?
Well, they absolutely have to come here because the thing that they
Yes.
can get here that they can't get anywhere else is our beautiful custom welcome mat to Manatee County. So, all
Well, if we work this out, I'll hold you to that.
right, I'll deliver it personally.
Robin knows how important that is. County attorney?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to suggest, in light of the clarifying language that Mr. Clegg is going to be reciting shortly, maybe we should go ahead and withdraw the motion that's on the table right now so that we can get a fresh, clean start with the motion that he's going to dictate for you.
All right, is that okay with the motioner?
No problem.
And the seconder, which I think was Mr. Johnson, are you okay with that?
It was Carol.
Carol, I'm sorry, okay. All right, so what is the motion, Mr. Clegg?
Well, there wasn't actually a recommended motion. There was sort of a requested action, but to adopt an ordinance, it should say, I move to adopt ordinance number 17-11, authorizing an economic development ad valorem tax exemption for Allied New Technologies 2 Incorporated in accordance with Article 15 of Chapter 229 of the county's Code of Ordinances. That last reference incorporates all of the requirements they're going to have to meet in order to get the exemption, including providing a written agreement to the satisfaction of this board. So Commissioner Smith, I think that picks up the concern you have to make sure that
Absolutely,
it's
it
clear
does.
that they're going to have to comply with our requirements.
Okay, is that accept?
So move, as he said.
Okay, we have a motion and a second
Bit legalistic, I
of
apologize.
the motion proposed by the attorney. Did the clerk's office get that? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Unanimous. Good job.
All right.
Get it done in 30 days, the permitting.
Get it built in 90.
I know.
Okay, does anyone need a break?
Clerk need a
I
break.
need one.
All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, I need to go to the.
Okay.
Right, I'm gonna.
There you go. All right, we're going to go ahead and reconvene, and we're going to take up item number 15 that was pulled off the consent agenda. If we want to go ahead and just, very brief, introduce what item number 15 is about.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joy Leggett Murphy. I am the Property Acquisition Division Manager for Manatee County, and I have with me Larry Decker. He is the real property specialist that this project was assigned to. Back in October, we were before the commission in October to request that a particular piece of land out at the corner of Ellington Gillette Road, or Gillette Road, and 301 be determined to be surplus property so that we can move forward with a private sale. On October 11th, the commission adopted resolution R-16-146 and declared that property surplus. We moved forward with the private sale per the ordinance, notified all of the adjacent property owners that the property was for sale, and took bids on that. We received only one request to purchase, and that was from the Wisnat family. And that request to purchase, or that offer, was for $98,381.50. We negotiated that contract, and that's the contract that is here before you today. So the contract was thoroughly negotiated from November and December, and it is here for you today for consideration. And I understand, did you have any questions regarding that?
Commissioner DiSabatino had asked some questions generally about the process. I don't have you on the board. Did you want to ask anything?
Yeah, thank you. We have an in-house appraiser, is that correct?
How we know what the value of that property is we took the money that we purchased it with. So this small sliver of parcel is actually made up of pieces of 2 parcels. And what we did was, we took the amount of money that we paid for those parcels when we bought them, we divided them by the square footage, and we got a price per square foot. So that price per square foot is $16.50. The parcel that we're selling right now is 5,911 square feet. When you do the math on that with the $16.50, it comes up to $97,581.50. The offer from the Wisnat family was actually $850 more than what we originally paid for it. So that's how we came up with whether or not the value was acceptable or not.
And how long did we have it?
A year and a half? I think we had it a year and a half.
And is that the amount of money the property appraiser has on it?
It's a difficult property to value because it's so small. This is actually significant more than what the property appraiser would value it for.
Right.
It's a non-buildable lot.
But normally, I'm not just saying this piece, normally, do you have an in-house appraiser that goes out and values it against other similar properties and so forth, or do you hire an appraiser?
We do it one of two ways. Sometimes we will do an in-house evaluation if it's a parcel that doesn't have a lot of complications. If it's a parcel that is more complicated, that has more depth to it, say we also need to know about businesses and the business value and things like that, then we'll hire a formal appraisal done. This parcel is very unique in that there's not a lot of comps for I think the parcel ended up being, 20 by 300? So it's a very unique piece of land. And so what we did at that point was just use what we had paid for it. We just went and tried to get the same amount of money back for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but that would not normally, if we're buying property, we normally have an appraisal, correct?
Right, if we're buying property, we normally go out and get a full appraisal
Right.
so we know what it is. And that appraisal was done when we purchased it the first time.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe that was the
That was a
question you were
missing link.
asking,
Okay,
and I
thank
wasn't
you.
answering it, sorry.
Thank you.
But when we purchased the property originally, there was a full appraisal done because it was done as part of a larger CIP
Right.
project.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, and the CIP project is designed, and so we don't need this right away in order to complete the CIP project, is that correct?
That's correct. That was the subject of the discussion in October. We had Mr. Salazar, who's not here today, but Mr. Salazar was here that day and explained that the project has been fully designed and that parcel is no longer needed.
Okay, that's what I recall. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open public comment on this. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on item number 15? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close public comment. And we've already said that Commissioner Trace has a,
Told by the county attorney I need to declare that I am a 25% owner of the WisNet partnership.
and so,
I will abstain, I will not vote.
and
I
you
was-
file whatever paperwork the county attorney says you have to
Yes.
file? Okay.
Yes, the county attorney has already filled out Form 8A for the commissioner, it's Form 8B, State Commission on Ethics form, memorandum of voting conflict. I have filled it out for Commissioner Trace, all of the important information, and it will simply require her signature, and that will be filed with the clerk of court as required by the statute before the day is out.
Okay, all right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the recommended motion.
We open it up?
I did.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed that.
We have a motion for approval, and I believe everyone on the board that could second it. So I will give that to Commissioner Johnson, all at the same time, just because he's right next to the motioner. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0 with one abstaining. Okay. Moving right along. Item number 31, the FEMA funding agreement from Hurricane Hermione,
Hermine?
or however you say it, Hermione.
No, I keep
Hermione.
thinking about
Hermione,
Harry
that has been
Potter.
the most difficult storm name. Good morning, Commissioners. Jan Brewer, Director of Financial Management. The item before you, I had hoped to bring along with the budget amendment, but they want us to go ahead and process this. This item is our next step with FEMA. It's an agreement directly with FEMA and the state of Florida. If you remember, the state of Florida is actually the grantee. We are the sub-grantee. The agreement allows the standard procedure, which 75% will be reimbursed by FEMA, 12.5 by the state, and the Manatee is responsible for 12.5. This agreement before you itemizes all the rules and regulations that we are to follow, and it does not obligate any money. What we're doing right now, they're establishing the project worksheets that will define, once they're defined, I'll come back before you with a budget amendment, bringing it into the budget, specifically identifying the funding. What this agreement does and this resolution does three specific things. It accepts the FEMA and the state agreement. It gives the chairman the authority to sign, and then it allows me as the Director of Financial Management to sign as well.
Okay. Questions for Jan or anyone else regarding the costs as they've been assessed here to the cost of the storm?
Madam Chair, if I could, I asked Jan to put this on the agenda because it's such a large dollar amount. We didn't want to put the budget amendment on at a later date and then have the board see a big number. So we thought we'd explain it first and bring the budget amendment later. Thank you, Jan.
Well, we appreciate the work that you've done on this. Again, it's important. These storms, something obviously we can't predict or stop, but we need to work in partnership with the state and the federal government in order to make sure that we're able to cover our costs under the insurance policies that are in place, so.
And if I may, your departments have responded very well. They're working, this was a good exercise for us
Yeah.
in case of a larger event, so they've worked very hard.
That will never, ever happen here in Manatee County, we hope. Okay, anyone who wants to make a comment regarding this request that's on our board, the FEMA funding agreement? Okay, seeing no one confirmed, to close public comment. What's the pleasure of the board?
Be accept.
Second.
Okay, so the action requested is the adoption of the resolution authoring the chairman to sign. That's been motioned by Commissioner Trace, second by Commissioner Whitmore. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the last but not least, something that we're all very excited about, always, the Gateway Greenway Trail Conceptual Plan, where we are.
Commissioners, Charlie Hunsaker, Director of Parks and Natural Resources. And may I also add John Osborne, Building and Development Services. Because I couldn't have a more capable partner in working on this task for the board through our joint departments. You could say this has been an evolving journey for me along a trail of almost 16 years, when in 2002 we worked to bring forward a master plan for a trail program for Manatee County. As we entered into the recession, however, we were faced with a lot of hard priority choices, and we just simply could not direct money to implement much of the trail plan that we have developed. But in many instances, this trail plan is still whole. It still hits the basic tenets of connecting our special places of where we live, where we play, visit, and recreate. And to that end, we're going to have a work session with the board this spring to go in detail, or more detail, about the plan itself and the various aspects and opportunities that the plan provides us to provide for multi-purpose usage of off-road, in particular, trails that travel across the landscapes of Manatee County along corridors such as utility corridors, power line corridors, water line corridors, and other public lands to connect our places. And it'll be a very informative work session when we have it. But while we work towards that goal, two opportunities have come up. Actually, just one, but two that you've been aware of. First of all, the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the state trail programs are working very hard to move funding into the Sun Trail program and its activities. And I'm going to ask John to put up the first countywide map to point that out. The trail that we're going to talk about is called the Willow-Ellington Trail. That is a trail that will parallel the railroad tracks owned by Florida Power and Light that extend from the Willow plant at the Hillsborough County line south to all the way into Ellington and then into Parrish. And along that line, you'll see a purple line coming down from the north on this very map. This is the alignment of a potential for a statewide connecting trail for the southwest coast of Florida. And when this line was drawn, it was drawn with great hope and not much imagination relative to how this trail could connect realistically the public rights-of-way and opportunities we have in Manatee County. You can see there it crosses the interstate about 3 times as it works its way down. Those are very difficult crossings to make if you're going to do it with pedestrian trails. And it follows the Wares Creek alignment, which is also a very great opportunity if we could ever afford to acquire the full rights, to the full riparian rights that owners granted to us when we built the project in the first place. When we built Wares Creek, we only acquired rights of access for maintenance. We did not require or acquire those areas in fee, nor did we just simply did not, and there were going to be millions more at stake to complete that. That opportunity still exists if we declare that this is a funding priority for us, but it'll be a very difficult one. But nonetheless, you can see from the northern aspect of that purple line, for us, it makes more sense for Manatee County and Hillsborough County to move that purple line to be more closely aligned, in fact, follow the Willow-Ellington Trail. And we'll be working with the state to try to seek an amendment to that purple line, because it's important. The $511,000 grant that we received to start the engineering and survey requirements to align this trail with the railroad track was granted only for that portion shown on that John is pointing to now, between Interstate and Palmetto. It's not eligible to be applied to the north since it's not on the state plan. So when you have to argue that, you argue the plan and try to move the designated trail back to our railroad alignment to make it more consistent with where we really want the trail to go. So we'll be talking more about that in the work session. The purpose of this item, however, before you today, is to talk a little bit more in detail about our what we call our gateway greenway. Going back to 2002, this was going to be the gateway to Manatee County from the north, from Hillsborough, south into Sarasota County, which is also in parallel with us, working on an extensive trail network of their own. And of course, we're always working to try to make sure our alignments were going to match, so that, like building a bridge from two sides of a river, you want to make sure they meet in the middle. And so in this instance, we've been working with a particular alignment that I'm going to show now in more detail, if we can pull up the second one. But in relation to Manatee County, it's in eastern Manatee County. But this particular trail takes advantage of many public lands that we have acquired for preserves and parks over the years. And by doing so, we do not have to then purchase easements or rights-of-way from underlying landowners to allow the trail to go forward. As you've experienced in many public works projects, usually the land costs are 60 to 70% sometimes of the total project cost. And so wherever we can travel through properties that we or the state of Florida own, or that are encumbered by gas line easements, which is the case for much of this route, we're going to save millions of dollars as it relates to the total project cost for such a trail as this. This is Appalachian Trail scale stuff here. This is not one park to the next, but it is a plan that will take many years to accomplish across the entire eastern Manatee County to solve that problem of getting long-distance walkers and hikers from Hillsborough to Sarasota County. That's not to say that you can drive out on any one of our public highways and be able to join up with this trail at any point, walk a segment of it. You know, you don't have to walk the whole thing ever. And but to provide that opportunity and get a start. Again, this was a vision from early 2000s. It's a vision of the 2010s, and it will be a vision in the decades to come as we work to get this trail to happen. The next slide, John, will show a more focused area between State Road 64 and the county line. This is the essence of this agenda today. As the Shorter Manatee companies work for their final development plans for the area of Lakewood Ranch and the development partners they have, such as Lennar Homes, Neal Communities, and the other communities along that line, they're pretty much close to finishing their conceptual alignments. And if we intend to take advantage of our own right-of-way that we own in parallel with their property in a railroad track-like configuration, interestingly enough, that was platted in the 1930s with what was called the Waterbury Grapefruit Tracks, with a right-of-way that contemplated Model Ts. It wasn't ever designed for a highway system. We still have that ownership by plat with Manatee County. And to take advantage of that, we certainly do not want to follow the railroad track alignment of that right-of-way. Because when it was laid out in the 30s, there wasn't once consideration about the value of wetlands in Manatee County. And probably 40% of this trail crosses wetlands. And it's not to say it's impossible to lay a pedestrian trail over wetlands, but you're going to have to elevate it, put it on boardwalk, extremely, extremely expensive. And wherever we can skirt the wetland, kind of walk along the edge, you get a bunch of advantages, not only with cost, but in terms of the access to wildlife that you're able to see and visit and experience without walking through it. And that's been our goal. As SMR has talked to us in the year to this point and in the months to follow, they've said that the time is right. and in fact, the time is now, to work with them to try to marry our alignments. Their easternmost access road that is being planned along their property line, our trail system, points of trailheads that could be worked out. And I want to say that this is not only a unique, but a very valuable partnership that they are offering to Manatee County. I want to take advantage of that and want to encourage the board to approve this ability to start now with our conceptual plan with their planners and make this trail alignment one of value, not only to SMR and the residents of all Manatee County, but of sufficient cost savings to Manatee County as we work this. Our staffs, our county will need the services of a professional engineer for some civil work, survey work, and general concept, along with the vision that John has, the vision that I have, and others in our staffs, to make a very valuable environmental experience in a trail out there. And to do so, we're going to need approximately $60,000 estimated at this time to contract with a company to provide the trail consulting work we need from that portion of the trail under SMR control, which is from State Road 64 south to the county line. And I might add, as Sarasota has worked with us before, SMR in Sarasota County working with us to extend that trail further south in a cooperative manner, in a timely manner. So our request today is to authorize the expenditure of $60,000 from the Parks and Recreation Impact Fee account for building this new facility and to move forward on that basis.
Okay, any questions for staff? Well, first of all, I want to say it's great that we were able to get some funding under the Sun Trail, even though we weren't initially awarded that. And you only get that funding if you're ready and able. And, this whole trail funding, I think road funding is complex. Well, trail funding seems almost as complex as road funding.
That's right.
And also master planning for trails, because there's so many different organizations that are working on that and have trails. In fact, on January 23rd, after the MPO meeting in Venice, there will be a work session on trails that the MPO and T-BART is hosting, and the purpose of that is because there was so much interest in the Sun Trail process and how do we get funding. And so that's the objective of that work session, is to educate us so that we can be ready and can get the funding that we need. Because as we know, the 60,000, as you said, is a pretty small number, and that's because we've got a public-private partnership already going on, as I understand it, with SMR. They're in the design phase. We know we can align things, so that's relatively inexpensive when it comes to trail planning, right, Charlie?
Very much so, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So, but we know what an important aspect for community, for quality of life for our citizens. I hear it all the time. I'm sure the rest of you do too, how important trails are for the quality of life. So we appreciate the attention that you're giving, and John Osborne, nothing like being a trail writer to understand how much there is a need and how to improve the trail network. Go ahead, John, take a bow. Go ahead, wave, yay. So I appreciate you doing this. Questions? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to commend Charlie and John and the vision that they have. And I know when we was in Washington, D.C., Congressman Vern Buchanan couldn't even eat for Charlie in his ear talking about a trail.
I seem to recall that.
Yeah.
I can picture it.
So finally, Congressman Buchanan said, well, if you want a trail, let's do it. Let me finish eating. But, he been busting his butt for this here, and he don't fail to mention these issues when we in Washington, D.C., I don't care what congressperson came in that we met, he was talking about trails. And I think it's a great vision when you talk about, which Vern Buchanan is an avid bike rider. And I think this is something that you can do for as family-orientated, quality of life, something that you can sell to the community. Some enhance their life opportunities also, because health is very important. And when you can lock up a trail from that distance and stuff there, it's really good for the community, also for children and stuff. So you guys really done a good job. I was surprised to see it so soon, to be honest with you.
We're there.
You've been talking about it every time I've seen you, and so I just want to commend you and all the hard work that you guys did, because it had to take a commitment for a lot of people to make this thing happen, and a lot of commitment from different people who really want to see this thing. I just want to thank both of you and your staff and everybody who put an effort in to put this vision together. Thank you.
You know, Madam Chairman, the ranking member of House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is Peter DeFazio of Oregon, and who we've had an opportunity to meet and address, along with Schuster, the Republican side. And with this administration's emphasis on infrastructure, which we believe will be a hallmark of the first 4 years, it is going to bode well for our transportation needs throughout this country, start with, for Florida in particular. It may result in accelerating some of the work of FDOT, and it certainly has a trail component with it. And like Buchanan, Congressman Buchanan, Congressman DeFazio also rides his bike to his office from his residence in Washington. So we've got some strong allies who are very familiar with Manatee County as a result of the good work that we have with our 21st Century Group. I'll put a little plug in for them.
Yeah.
To do the kinds of interaction and communication that we need to keep Manatee County on the table of interest and priority. I know Congressman Buchanan is very helpful and has been in the past and will continue to be wherever there's a federal opportunity to support our trail program.
Okay. Commissioner Ball.
Yeah, I think, Charlie, you just kind of took the words right out of my mouth. We had such a great visit in Washington last year where Charlie was definitely busy talking about trails the whole time. And I remember the lunch that you were referring to, Commissioner Smith, with DeFazio and Congressman Buchanan, both there. And they were both very involved and wanting to help us move forward with trails in Manatee County. And I couldn't sit here and not say thank you, of course, to SMR. I mean, to be willing to work with us in this regard is just wonderful. And I thank them wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart, because I know so many residents will enjoy, such as the both of you, these trails once they get built. So, thank you to SMR. Thank you to Congressman Buchanan for following through after, he got back from Washington and working with you on this. And I got to tell you, Jocelyn at 21 Century has been just amazing. I can tell you I probably have been hearing from her recently 3, 4, 5 times a day. So, a lot is going on. We've got great people helping us, in Washington as well as Tallahassee too.
That's right.
This is a big day for Manatee County. And, I hope that before too awfully long, we can see these trails going all the way down to, what are the trails in Sarasota called? Legacy.
Legacy.
Yeah.
So, hopefully before long, we'll see both counties join together for these trails, and it'll be widely used. So hooray, and Charlie, I can't leave you out. Thank you for not eating your lunch on several occasions because you've been busy working. And Mr. Osborne, I'm not going to leave you out. We also know that you're very involved too. So thank you for everything that you've both done.
John is an avid mountain biker and trail rider, and it
No,
leaves
yes,
me
I
in the
see
dust.
pictures all the time on Facebook.
Yeah, yes.
He and Dan Schlatt, they're always
Yeah.
riding their bikes all
Yeah.
over the place. And just be safe, that's all I'll say, because I ride my bike around here too. It's a little
I got
scary
one
at
for
times.
Christmas. I'm so excited. Gotta start riding.
How's that coming?
All right.
No, so far not so good.
You got a purple cruiser. All right, we're going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on this budget amendment for doing the planning on the conceptual alignment for the gateway? Please come forward, state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Catherine Edwards. It's projects like this that make this a great place to live. Thank you.
Cool.
Couldn't agree with you more, Catherine. Couldn't agree with you more. All right, anybody else have any comments? All right, we're going to close public comment. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Jeez, why didn't somebody do the motion?
I was busy laughing. Okay, we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Baugh, I guess. I'm just going down the
I
line.
think we all hit it pretty.
Again,
at the
another
same time.
uniform second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Chair votes aye. And it's passed, yay.
Yay.
Let's go forward, plan and build. That's what we need to do. Thank you. Thank you. I think,
Yeah,
is that
I think
it?
that's it.
I think that's it. So we're going to act really quick. We're going to go down the line. Commissioner Smith, did you have any comments you'd like to share?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine right now.
Commissioner Trace?
I'm a very happy commissioner today.
We like that. Good. Commissioner DiSabatino?
Fine, nothing.
Commissioner Baugh?
I do have something. Sorry. Hey. For once, I'm not going last. It's wonderful. I just wanted to bring up, if you'll recall, Charlie made me think about it, when we were in Washington last year, we had the meeting at the White House, and Betsy, you'll recall this, you were there. We talked about a grant that would help with Rabonia. And I know that I brought it up not too long ago, maybe a couple of months ago, just to make sure that we were moving forward on this. And I know at that time, I think Sherry Courier responded to Jocelyn in Washington to try it. But I haven't heard anything else, and I hear now that Jerry has come in and she's taken this over. So, Mr. County Administrator, I want to make sure that we are still moving forward on this grant.
Yes.
For Washington with Rabonia.
Yes.
Can we get an update from Jerry?
I'll have
Maybe an
somebody
email?
prepare an update and present it to the board.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
All right, great. Well, good luck in Washington. I know you're on your way. Not too far out, right? When do you leave? Next week?
Yes, next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. All right. Well, give our best to the Prez and stay warm.
Yeah.
I know you're going to go there and represent the county for the inauguration, so.
A lot of good things going on. Governor Scott is having a gala Wednesday evening.
Are you going to be able to make it?
Several things, yeah.
Good. You changed your
I
flight.
did, I
Good.
changed my flight.
Okay. Have a good gala.
Thank
Do
you.
some good
Looking
galing.
forward to it.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Just, a couple items. We're coming up here this week with, two of the major events here in Manatee County, and I think we all as commissioners and anybody else listening needs to get out there and support the fair. I know Priscilla's planning on camping out there most of the week, and I think that's great, but I think the rest of us also need to make an effort, and we've also got, the Martin Luther King dinner Friday night as well as the parade on Saturday. So I think we need to also make sure that we get some presence there and support the community. So again, I think it's just a big week here in Manatee County coming up that we as elected servants need to get out there and press the flesh with all of our constituents and be seen and, try to do what we, hear from the people of their concerns. And those are both great events to talk to people and learn things. And that's about it.
And you'll hear at the parade, I want candy. So be ready and have your throwing arm
Yeah.
warmed up.
Oh, my gosh.
Throwing candy.
Ladies, the fair is 11 days. You don't have to cook.
Right. Good
Officially.
food. Good food.
I don't know if it's good for you, but it is
I
good.
didn't say it was good for you, I just said it was good food.
Guaranteed after the throwing of the candy, your whole side will hurt for a week. Yeah.
And try not to hit a kid in the eye. I've
Took
done it
me
once.
2 years to get my shoulder straight after the first time we were in that parade throwing candy.
Commissioner Whitmore.
I'm going to be in at the MLK dinner Friday night, and if you haven't, $75, you gotta, they want their money up front, but I'm going to give it at the door because I don't have time. The parade, we have to buy candy, guys.
Yes.
It's not that it's provided, so Sam's, I don't know how many of us are going, I think 4 of us are going to be in the
I
county
will be
thing,
out of
so.
town.
And then I'm working in the booth. They needed still help commissioners to sign up in the booth. I'm working Thursday with Nick from 5 to 7, so to represent the county too. Tom Gerstenberger's funeral was Saturday.
Baby's
and-
funeral. Baby's
I mean, his son, David. His son David's funeral. was Saturday, and I'm very proud of all the employees that came, and actually John Chappie showed, and Commissioner Benek and myself were there, and him and his wife both gave, a speech, and I mean, grown men were sobbing. It was terrible, but it was good. Andrea Pastor, a longtime sixth generation Palmetto family. She was only 52. She passed away unexpectedly, so we went to her funeral Saturday and then Tom's baby's Sunday. So our thoughts are with Tom. He may come back to work Wednesday or Thursday. He doesn't know. But I'll tell you, that kid, he handled himself well. That his wife did great. And his baby was born and lived 190 days, never came home, was at All Children's Hospital the whole time. And they went up every day. So Betsy and I attended a while back Guardian Angels at dinner. We have a major need for fostering in Manatee County, major. I wish hopefully somebody would take this on and work with the appropriate people that would. If any of the commissioners want to get involved and help, with all these heroin overdoses, these people getting arrested, parents getting arrested in the middle of the night, these kids are being taken out of their homes at night, a family of kids, and they're being separated because there's a lot of people that won't take a whole family of kids. So if anybody wants to take that on, I got a lot on my plate. Please support whoever's doing it. If there's anything we can do, I'd appreciate it. Priscilla and I attended the Gulf Coast Consortium. I think Commissioner Smith had mentioned that at the last meeting. Charlie Hunsaker is going to be presenting to the board at a work session exactly what's going on, so you're all updated on what's been going on and exactly, because it's so complicated. But the 23 counties presented their plans on how they want to allocate the monies. There's other states that are further ahead than we are, and they want to bond the monies up front, but the federal treasury is having heartburn over that. So it's very complicated, and so hopefully the other states met in, I think, Louisiana recently, so maybe Charlie can give us an update on what's going on with that, and when we have it at our work session. Bill Clegg, thank you for attending the TDC meeting at the last time we had it, and explain the current laws of what our laws are and how the TDT money is distributed. I met with, we had voted, taken a policy step on having, not having a in-house medical clinic for our employees. So I had talked to everybody. It was very fragmented in the medical community. So I met with both hospital administrators, staff, president of the Medical Society, also Valerie, the director of the Medical Society, Dr. Clulo, and he brought his practice management company. And we met up on the 9th floor, and we said, okay, the county's, the private sector says they can do this. Now let's have the private sector work with the county. And mainly my role was just to facilitate it. Dr. Clulo's asked for the list of Aetna providers that we have, that our employees see, and the physicians. I know Dr. Clulo's already contacting many primary cares, et cetera, and he will, when the doctors get together, they will work with Kim Stroud and Rodney and Ed and come up with a plan that hopefully we can still get our employees back to work, send them to our appropriate programs that we have in the county for our wellness program. And again, this will be a public-private partnership, so I think that's the best. Tomorrow I'm meeting with our staff again at LECOM, the dental program. We have a major, and I think I mentioned this at the last 2 meetings ago, Rural Health is taking on pediatrics. And then we have homeless that are taking the true homeless at turning points. There's nothing in between. We actually have the working people that have no access to dental health. So I'm going to meet with the dental people. Our staff have been trying to get through, and they were kind of getting the runaround, so I made a call, and we're going to meet tomorrow just to start the dialogue of what possible ideas that we could have to solve that. The working poor have cars. They have jobs, so that's not an issue getting them there. We have the homeless taken care of, so we'll see how that works out. So staff will keep you all informed, and I'll give you reports if anything positive happens out of that. Sorry, because I held off my comments at the last meeting. December, I attended a meeting, and actually Charlie Hunsaker and Nan also did. Mayor of Bradenton Beach was there, and some others. We attended, it's called PINK, it's a conference in Sarasota. It was a conference, an all-day conference, and there were 16 international speakers. And just to open up your minds and look at new ideas, because we tend to all get in our silos. And it was very refreshing to see what's going on in the world. There was a young kid from Mexico that's an architect, and he took the oldest, ugliest buildings you could ever believe and made them into the coolest buildings for governments. And he's all over the United States. They also passed these out. Now, I saw Charlie had one in the hallway, and I heard this is what he wants our education center at Robinson's Preserve the Color to be. That's why he had. They sent this out. There was about 500 people that attended. It was at Sarasota Opera House. This piece of paper here, you can pour any water in the world, wherever it is, and it comes out drinking water. I have no clue what it's made out of. I'm going to give it to our staff and have Charlie research it, but it's some kind of major microfiltration. But I thought that was very cool. It was just very, very interesting, and I'm glad I attended. Animal Services Advisory Board, I went to their meeting last month, and the veterinarian that helped draft the animal abuse registry in Hillsborough County was there. So their board spent most of the time, the advisory board, asking her questions, and it was, in fact, our staff was all out sick, so it was actually just the advisory board and 2 of us in the audience, because everybody was sick. Samoset Community Center, I went there last night. I read in the paper that they were having a meeting, and I stayed there till about 8:30 last night, and let me tell you, these people, and Charles has brought this up in the past, these people, I can't believe that they're still living there. Some of them live there 40-something years. People our ages that have been there 40-something years, every person there had their doors pushed in, knocked in, or been robbed. Just recently, some guy took all his clothes off and was laying in the front yard screaming and yelling all night. They've had, I asked them if they are working like they did in Rabonia and actually in Bay Shores, the example I gave, where we had law enforcement and code enforcement there. Our staff was there to try to get them to do the CBDG applications, so we can qualify for monies. There were some new people that actually showed up because of that newspaper article. There was a lady there that lives in the neighborhood that works at Tropicana. There's tons of jobs available. They just don't have anybody around that area applying. It's very high crime, gangs, drugs. And I would ask Ed if there's anything that we can do. I mean, to me, this is like a little bit of acute in the area. I think this is one of the top areas for gangs in Manatee County, Oneida and Samoset area. I know we have code enforcement. I know the sheriff's been there. I just think, and I know we're talking about lighting and stuff like that. This is a safety issue to me, just hearing the residents. And if you wouldn't mind having staff, Ed, maybe put their heads together and maybe come up, talk to us and give us some ideas of where we could help them. They have the sheriff drive by, they have code enforcement, but I don't know if we need a concentrated effort for a few months to weed out. We've got all the houses. I told them about the property maintenance code that we have put in now, and that Charles and I have been pushing being able to get in the homes. There's people that are squatting there. I said, well, if they're there less than 6 months, they have to pay a tourist tax. That's the law in Manatee County, and all these people writing that down. They were going to call the property appraiser today. There's maybe some things that we could do and concentrate, but it was, to me, a major safety issue. And it was the area where the community center is, kind of by where our fleet management is, 30th, around there.
38th.
Yeah, it was on 17th is actually where the center was. So these people were very angry. Our staff, Ogden, he did very well. Simone was there. So I would just ask if there's anything that we could do. I would very much appreciate trying to me, this is something that we really need to focus on. And I would ask, this will be a policy decision. This is a budgetary decision. But I would like maybe John Barnett to come and, tell us his ideas in code enforcement and the sheriff's department. Okay. Okay, and the only other thing I have is You know, I have had many, everywhere I go, everywhere I've gone since we had the discussion about the county administrator's position. That's done, it's voted, I get that. But I had many employees say that if we would have, the way that we spoke, if they would have spoke like that, they would have been terminated because of our ACE philosophy. And it's been bothering me, and I just want to apologize to the employees on my behalf that I wish we could have toned it down a little bit. I know we all get very passionate, and I respect that, but, you know, we have we haven't adopted an ACE philosophy up at the board. I don't know if that's what the board wants to do. And we have a civility, and we kind of lost that a little bit too. It's always been my style to be, even though I didn't agree with people, I try to be respectful. So on behalf of myself, I felt it important that I apologize if anybody took offense. I had many employees come up to me. I had many people in the community. And I think maybe we could have done things a little bit different, but it's already over. So that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could answer the question that Catherine brought up earlier about the payment on that Paul Alexander let me know that it's a significant part of the $15 million project. This is the Airbus number under the clerk's consent agenda. It's a significant part of the $15 million project. It's for the acceptance of the factory acceptance of testing of the microwave, the subsystem, the electronic subsystem, which is the racks, the servers, and the networking, and the dispatch console. It also includes Exacom's recording system used by public safety for the 911 radio system. Both Sarasota and Manatee counties participated in this testing that took place in Texas and in Canada and signed off on the acceptance. Both counties agreed that the criteria was met for the completion in accordance with the contract, and both counties paid their respective invoices accordingly. So it is part of the P25 radio.
P25 radio system.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I thought of something I forgot to mention that I think is real important, and we probably should acknowledge it. I know that we've been getting a lot of emails this week, or at least I have, I'm assuming you all did, in favor of Sarah Brown, the Animal Services Chief. I did talk with her yesterday because I wanted her to know that I do appreciate the job she's doing, and amazingly enough, all the money that's been spent, we seem to be doing better now and we're spending less, and she's just really following through and getting things done, and I know that she's had a tough week, you know, with everything that happened. You know, we heard about, of course, the dog this morning that was put down, and, you know, Sarah has handled that situation and come through with flying colors, and what I think has amazed me the most is that she's gotten so much support from the community. And I just wanted to say, Sarah, thank you for the job you're doing. And, you know, I appreciate the positive comments from the community that she's had, because I know it's been tough for her. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely appreciate all of the positive emails. You know, if we don't hear, if only we hear is negative stuff, then that's kind of what we think is negative stuff. So I really do appreciate, and I responded to many of the emails until I realized, ooh, there's going to be lots. So I kind of burned out on responding to every single one of them.
I know, I couldn't keep up.
But we do appreciate the public letting us know equally when they're displeased with something, but also when they're pleased with something, that something's working well. I really do appreciate the people, and people took quite a bit of time to, you know, put together emails and send them to us. So I agree with you, Commissioner Baugh. I don't have a whole lot to add to today's meeting. Charles, are you on? Okay, go ahead.
When you finish.
Okay. There are a lot of things going on, as was noted. I am going to go to the Landlords Association meeting Thursday because we were invited, and I've never been to a Landlords Association meeting, and I do need some, I just sent an email to staff saying if there's something I should be aware of and briefed on, that would be helpful, even if it's just a phone call. And I imagine I think there hasn't been any changes to the property maintenance ordinance, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not we're going to be going inside of buildings or not, but I don't think that has moved forward in any way
Not yet.
that I recall. So just want to make sure that that would be my response to them. Robin, do you know something?
You might want to reach out to former Commissioner Jonathan Bruce and talk to him first. And-
Okay.
And maybe
Does
Lou
he go to those
Urice.
meetings?
Doesn't it go?
Let him know that you're going to attend, and Lou Urice, and they'll give you some other perspectives
Yeah.
before you go.
Well, I think Carol and I both got an invitation to go, and I could go and she couldn't go, if I remember correctly, so I'm
You
going.
could go then, no, I couldn't go, then you could go, then you said you couldn't go, but then you found out it was the wrong day, now you can't go.
I'm
So
going
we're
and that
fine.
you would go in the future. And we try to do that sometimes, lots of times they'll invite two of us to a meeting. I know Commissioner Johnson and I got invited to a meeting and said, oh, no, you can't have two there. But, okay, that's not a bad idea. If you want to send me his contact information, I'll be happy to reach out to him. Because I'm going in pretty cold. I don't really know what the issues are. But, as I've said before, people want to meet with me. I'll be happy to meet and discuss what their issues are. The other thing, I think you all know, we've set a date. I think it's set for sure for the board retreat and a place.
Right.
And again, this is being put together with the idea that it's not going to be a typical work session. We're not going to have a long presentations by staff, because it's our opportunity to talk about what's important to us on this upcoming year and how we're going to approach some of these issues. As Carol said, Samoset's out there, we've got a lot of things on our plate. But I think if we can, as a board, discuss what our priorities are, what we think, especially before we go into budget, what are some of the big issues that are facing the county, and how what we think that we want to focus on and what the resources are. But it's not going to be, we're not going to have staff like they typically do. They're not going to have all these PowerPoint presentations for us because they don't know what we're going to be talking about. But we will continue. Karen Winden is helping me out quite a bit with researching how these kind of retreats are done in other areas. But if there's something, that's of great concern to you, we also will talk about the county administrator process, what we are looking for, what we expect in a county administrator. We didn't end on a great note last year, but I think we're moving forward and we want to be positive. We have a great staff. We see it every week here. We see it in everything that we do. And, they're concerned. They're concerned about how things are. I know when I was a staff member and we were looking at changing the leadership position, it causes concerns. So we want to make sure that we, together as a board, are moving forward in a positive way and representing, as Mr. Johnson so well put it, representing the people of Manatee County, our constituents. That's what our job is. So that's what we're going to be focused on. And but you guys are my partners in this deal, so let me know what some of your thoughts are on the retreat. I know Commissioner Baugh has been getting some information. I appreciate that on how it's done elsewhere. We'll figure it all out before we get there, but we got a date and we're moving forward. Commissioner Smith.
Yes, Madam Chair, I want to echo about the King banquet in the parade. However, after the parade, you also have a festival in Lincoln Park, the Multicultural Festival. Vendors will be there. There'll be activity for children. It's free to the public. You also will have Ray Goodman and Brown performing, and also Rolls Royce will be performing in the park, and it is well attended. Last year we had Freddie Jackson was there last year, so this is a well attended. It's geared toward curbing crime and violence. And since we've had that put in place, the multicultural has not been any major incidents whatsoever. Furthermore, touching base on Commissioner Whitmore dealing with Samoset. Samoset is a situation that really need attention. Ironically, when I was heading to the 12th Judicial Meeting in Sarasota yesterday, I was listening to 11:50 a.m. and Sheila Ray Charles is the daughter of legendary Ray Charles. And she resides here in Brayton, and she was talking about the homeless and housing issue. And I wasn't aware, and she's a minister, and she has a new album coming out. This is actually Ray Charles' daughter, who resides here. And I was about 10 minutes late because I wanted to finish that conversation. It was a special 11:50, but most of the topic was about Bradenton.
Interesting.
To me, she was saying about the number of children that's homeless, over 2,000 in Manatee County.
Yeah,
Are
it's been like
homeless.
that.
There's a homeless camp now in Samoset. I passed it and seen it myself yesterday. And how could we have over, and we're getting ready to skyrocket to the top of that list. And so the issue is what's going on? And she said she stayed here because so many issues, social problems that's taking place. She talked about the heroin epidemic because she was a user for years herself. And she talked about how her father, Ray Charles, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on her drug addiction and how she went to federal prison and stuff like that. But I think I met her about 3 years ago, but it was a Manatee County and the issues and social, economic problems that we have, the housing, but I was stunned. And then she talked about the families that are housed, that are not, have nowhere to live. And it's just getting worse. But it was an interview of her and her life story and what she was doing now. But it was a chronic situation that we need to address in Samoset, the crime and violence. I know that I had Ms. Talley, who retired, my executive assistant. On many occasions, we've sent emails to the sheriff about different issues, different locations that we can't talk publicly about, dealing with the epidemic over there. People have called me about that. Certain things I couldn't talk about publicly because of the investigation taking place. But when I went through Samoset yesterday, was 2 deputies there parked across from Dan's Market. But there are some serious social issues there. I seen maybe 150 people had made up tents, and these were young children. So what are we doing? I'm so confused.
And there's jobs available, too.
I mean,
That's
what are
I
we
don't
doing? And then I went into the sex trafficking that's coming into Manatee County. She talked about that. The people are flying here now and getting people. So we got to quit talking and get something done.
Well, it's a matter of priorities, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about at the retreat. How do we prioritize some of these issues, recognizing that we have, limits on the amount of staff and the amount of revenues that we have. But when you're talking, I can't help but think, things like Sell Freedom, which is a wonderful private organization that is tackling the sex trade business and such great partnership in Sarasota. The Sarasota police chief is working very closely with them. I've talked to Melanie Bevan a bit about it, about being involved because they're doing such wonderful things. So it's, again, understanding not only what the problem are, but what some of the resources are.
Well, you're right. We have to prioritize what we've done in the past, and I think the thing that I'm getting when I talk to other communities, that maybe during the downturn, you outsource too many different things for financial reasons, where you don't have control of the destiny of what's taking place in your community now because you've outsourced it, you allocate the funds. So now it's done grown away from you. And so those are the things that are very disturbing. I'm going to attempt to reach out to Ms. Charles, and I believe she can help us with this talk and find out what she went through. Some of the stuff she's doing, she's world renowned throughout the community and nationally and globally too. And so I was just surprised. On 11:50 a.m., it was a 2-hour special, and she was the one being interviewed. And her home place here now is Bradenton. She specifically said why she stayed here because of what's taking place.
Interesting.
In Bradenton. The other thing, dealing with Commissioner Whitmore mentioning hospitals, I hope they come up and step to the plate. As you know, we increase in insurance every year, so we can't continue to do that. And the issue north of the river, we approved about 30,000 homes, so sooner or later, someone's gonna have to put a hospital over there. I understand they're gonna have to put a hospital over there. You gotta start focusing on that now, so I hope they realize that if they're not going to do it, someone else needs to put a hospital north of the river because we just can't make it. Ms. Hutchinson was here, and we just can't make it cross that bridge right now. You can't hold a heart attack on that. And my last comment, Madam Chair, even last night, I had a Tiger Bay and I left and I went to a store, and I know Commissioner Whitmore is saying about what was said up here, but I can tell you, ever since I've been a commissioner, I've had employees tell me that they talk to me, they'll be terminated I had one tell me last night who reside in District 2 that actually needs help. And she was afraid to talk to me for 4 months because someone told her, say, you talk to Commissioner Smith, you're going to be terminated. So I'm just saying it goes both ways. It goes both ways from that standpoint. And I think all of us said it's nothing personal what we took place up here. It's part of our responsibilities. And we evaluate every 4 years. And God bless everyone that got reelected. But we get evaluation by the voters of Manatee County every 4 years. And so it's nothing mean-spirited about what we said. It wasn't intentionally to hurt anybody's feelings. But that's one of our official responsibilities to do in government. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Before I go to the other commissioners, I want to make sure we want a break here. I just don't want to keep going on. I know we could probably keep talking. We're very good at that for quite a while, but I know we've got obligations at lunchtime. I know I do anyways.
I do.
So can you make it brief, commissioners? And then we got to go to our county attorney and county administrator.
Got public comment.
Robin, you got something? No more public comment.
I echo what Commissioner Smith just said. Also, when I go to the Homeless Coalition, actually, Leslie Lovelace is resigning, and they're going out for a new director search. So I might be stepping in. I'm on the board, but I might be stepping into the vice chair because another lady has gone as well. But when I go to those meetings, they're really, really helpful because they share what's going on down in Sarasota, and the Sarasota police have assigned several officers specifically to help with the homeless. And they're downtown, and what their primary task is to make sure that these folks know about what services are available to them. The 211, they give out the booklets and the brochures, and it's been very successful. And they're allowed to bring them to the Salvation Army for at least one night, maybe two. And then if they decide to comply and go through to get help and services, then they can stay more days. And they have facilities for children. So we need to have more of a discussion, and I know Denise Thomas goes to a lot of those meetings, so that's one thing that we're working on by county. And unfortunately, this thing is countrywide. I mean, I'm in Long Beach, California. I mean, it's gorgeous there. And downtown, homeless are camping out in front of the county building, and they're allowed to stay there. They're taking over San Francisco, the sanctuary cities. So, you know, it's not just here, but we're here, and we have to address here. And I really applaud Commissioner Whitmore and Smith for going into the Samoset area. Regarding the retreat, I told Dan Schlant Rodney Barnes needs direction from us ahead of time to see if he has it on his calendar to be there. He needs to know from the chair or from the board what capacity he needs us to be there to bring information on headhunters, vendors, and so forth. So he has all that.
Yeah, we're not
That far yet.
No.
Okay, so he needs some direction. And then just lastly, this Thursday and Friday, I was asked just Friday night to go this week to Tallahassee, representing the Regional Planning Council, because I'm on the Regional Planning Council, and Patrick Roth, who's their new chair, can't attend, so they appointed me to attend Thursday night and Friday, and it's an appointee from each Regional Planning Council at this meeting, so I asked him, you know, what I need to do to prepare, so if there's anything that you all think of regionally that I need to work on, or I'll just bring back information. Sean Sullivan, who's their new director, who's been there just a year now, He's excellent. I'm sure you've met him
Yeah.
up at the, when you go to T-Barta, because his office is there.
Yeah, I was on the selection committee, so I was
He's
part of
excellent,
that when they
yeah.
were looking. And actually, that process
Worked out
that
well.
the,
yeah.
that they went through, and I'm trying to, in my spare time, I need to get all of the information. That's one of my
Right.
goals, to be able to present that when we talk about
Right, 'cause-
what are the available processes.
Right, because Patrick was
And
telling me
so-
how you all went through that, and it was
And it was very good. It was
He's
run
excellent,
by
excellent selection.
someone in either Pinellas or St. Pete, I can't remember, but it was their personnel department that helped the Regional Planning Council in that search for their new
And
director.
He's from New England, and I love his accent. So, I think New Hampshire or something, somewhere around there.
Brings
But,
back memories of home. Brings back memories of
Commissioner
home.
Whitmore.
He's got a real heavy accent.
Just real quick, and then we're done, I think, but 211, nobody answers that phone. It's because they're
It's
so swamped. I've been
changing,
with Sherry, and I've been with the new director. They need staff, they need funding, they need education, and they need help. And Sherry's, after I met with them last month, they're off, and Sherry's trying to get them some help, so.
Okay.
Because that's the problem, you get put on hold, and some of the stuff really didn't need to go through 211, but they only have 2 or 3 people answering all those lines.
Yeah, they're going through a new
Right.
process,
And
yeah.
Samoset, I'm still, Ed, and in my world in nursing, when we see a patient that's really sick, I'm thinking Samoset, we call it upfront loading them. We get nursing, we get physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech, and we get a MSW, a social worker, to get that person everything they need and get a plan. I'm almost thinking Samoset is at that point, and please talk, Ed, if you could talk to John and code enforcement. If you could hear the stories that I heard last night, I was afraid to walk out to my car. And they don't think it's anything to have somebody break through their window or knock on their windows at 2 or 3 in the morning. And there's a high incident of crime there, drugs, squatting in empty homes. And if it's all right with the board, if at least the staff could look at that to see if it really is as bad as what these citizens were saying, at least I own that.
If I can make a suggestion, how about the
I'm
sheriff's
talking to Ed.
department?
Well, sheriff's been there. He's been at the last 2 meetings.
Well, we don't have time
Right.
at this particular board meeting, and we understand that's an issue, and we've
I'm
seen it.
asking
And
Ed.
we also have a
Yeah.
plan that was done a long time ago for Samoset, and it's a question of resources, but certainly that will be something that we will talk
Targeted
about.
area with,
Targeted
Denise.
area.
The targeted area, and we're going to talk about how those are priorities and how we get through those priorities so that when we assign resources, we know
Right.
what the priorities are. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because there are so many needs, and we know that. There's never enough resources given the needs, but that's something that we're going to talk about. Now I'm going to go to Ed's comments.
It is interesting because this is a unique point in time, because for the last 10 years, we've either been reducing the size of this government or just holding on, trying to get current revenues to exceed current expenses. The opportunity you have is next year, fiscal year 18, and this spring when we deliver a 2-year budget, could be the first time you actually have money in 10 years. It's a major sea change. You will have the opportunity to look at what are your priorities and actually invest in those priorities for the first time in 10 years. When you think back, in 2007, we got poor, and we've stayed poor. And in 2018 will potentially be the first year that you will have money to spend. And it's important that it coincides with this idea of a retreat. And in that retreat, you can look at what might be your budget priorities. We'll try and see if we can do a range forecast of how much, whether it's $17 or 1.7 million or, God forbid, 17 million, but we'll be looking at the numbers and talking to you so you can see how it is that you might want to proceed. We will also give you a bit of history, because the future is somewhat dependent on the history and how you have spent money over the last 10 years. And I think that's a little telling, but it'll help you determine and work through those goals that you may want to establish for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
No.
County Attorney?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for acknowledging me. No, I have no commentary. Thank you.
All right.
I got one comment.
Charles.
Okay, one comment.
Ready to go to lunch?
I'm ready to go too. I
30
got people
seconds.
waiting on me. But I just want to say, in these target areas that we're talking about, and the reason Commissioner Whitmore is going through frustration in me and the people in the community, because even during good times, there was no resources spent in those communities. From Rabonia to, you name it, to Samoset, to Partsville, Nika.
We'll leave that on the table for
But
response.
I'm just
and-
saying, you know.
Never forget.
We will
Yeah.
leave that on table for
Forget.
response and discussion.
Okay.
So noted. We're adjourned.